Chapter 292. Wang Xian's abduction. Lin Yi chuckled to himself. Indeed, it was fortunate that he hadn't come to this room, otherwise he'd be in danger. Lin Yi wouldn't hesitate to kill anyone who threatened Tang Yun. Boss, should we go take a look? Xiaobo was a little curious. It wasn't often that he saw cops and robbers fighting each other. Let's go. Lin Yi didn't mind. He turned to Tang Yun. You coming? Tang Yun was a little scared, but curious at the same time. You guys want to go watch? Xinwen was surprised. She told them not to go out of goodwill, but they'd volunteered to go watch. There's the police in front, it should be fine, right? Kong Xiaobo said as he walked out. Sure enough, when he opened the door, the corridor was already full of onlookers. Some of them were wearing hospital gowns, and there were also doctors and nurses passing by. However, the innermost part of the corridor was separated by the police to prevent these onlookers from going over. Lingshan ran all the way to the hospital with Lu Wangli by her side, reporting the situation to her in detail as they walked. The nurse who was kidnapped is called Wang Xian, 20 years old, just graduated this year. When she went to change Lu Bujia's bandages, she saw Guanya trying to harm Lu Bujia, so she was taken hostage. Wangli explained as they walked. What? Wang Xian? Lin Yi bumped into Lingshan as he walked out of the room, surprised to hear Wangli mention Wang Xian's name. Lin Yi? Why you here? Lingshan was surprised to see Lin Yi here as well. She hadn't expected him to be here. Tang Yun was a little jealous of Lin Yi's concern for Wang Xian, but she didn't say anything. Her heart tightened when she heard that Wang Xian was the one who was kidnapped. She was still a little hostile towards Wang Xian, but it was undeniable that the two had become friends after spending some time together. No matter what, Tang Yun was still worried about Wang Xian. Lin Yi didn't answer Lingshan's question, instead turning to Wangli. Lu bro, you said Wang Xian was the hostage? Why, you know her? Wangli was quite familiar with Lin Yi now, since he'd driven him and Shark home the day before yesterday. Yeah, she's a friend of mine. Lin Yi nodded. Should I go take a look? Lingshan frowned, but didn't say anything. Lin Yi was a decent fighter, and he could at least protect himself. If he knew the hostage, things might turn for the better. Guanya knew who he was, and he'd be on his guard if he were to make a move. Huaijuan, however, was the only one in the police force who was better than him. If she wanted to get close to Guanya, Lin Yi might be the best candidate. But honestly speaking, Lingshan didn't want Lin Yi's help. One, she was worried about his abilities, and the other, if the guy really did help her again, he'd only ask her to do more things for him in the future. Don't talk to me like that. Guanya looked at the negotiator in front of him with disdain. Get me 500,000 in cash and a helicopter full of fuel, or I'll kill this girl. Guanya licked his lips, a fierce light in his eyes. He tightened his grip on Wang Xian's neck, and a thin line of blood appeared. The negotiator was also sweating profusely. He had not expected Huang Guanya to be so unmoved by force or persuasion. He had not listened to a single word he had said to him. Instead, he had told him about how he had killed a 3-year-old boy in a washing machine. All right, I'll do it. Lingshan's voice sounded. But you have to ensure the safety of the hostage. Lingshan didn't have a choice. She had to stall the criminal first. If Guanya hurt the hostage, she'd be held responsible. She was only a temporary captain right now, and she'd probably never get promoted. She'd even be demoted. Don't come near me. Guanya's eyes flashed with hatred when he saw Lingshan. He was a little afraid of this woman, and he wasn't a match for her. Letting her get close would put him in danger. All right, I won't go. Lingshan frowned. She'd wanted to get close without anyone noticing and subdue Guanya, but Guanya was smart enough to know that Lingshan was a good fighter. He didn't give her a chance at all. Tell your men to put their guns down and back off. Guanya said. All right, put your guns down. Lingshan waved her hand at her men. They had to play it safe right now, and they couldn't just shoot Guanya if they didn't have the confidence to kill him in one shot. Get me some food, I'm hungry. Guanya said. Don't even think about doing anything to the food, I'll give it to this girl first. Call the hospital canteen now and tell them to send the food here directly, don't do anything. All right, I'll do it. Lingshan nodded, thinking of a plan in her head. Ling Shan was quite happy when she heard that Guanya wanted to eat, since she only needed to do something to the food, but she didn't expect the guy to be this smart. Calling the hospital to deliver food to her face to face. It seemed like it would be hard to do anything in such a short amount of time. Don't mind me, hurry up and shoot. The patient in the room was stabbed by him, and he'll be in danger if we don't save him. Guan Xian called out suddenly. Ling Shan paused, remembering that Wuxia was still in the room. Her face turned ugly. She'd been so focused on dealing with Guanya that she'd forgotten about Wuxia's situation. Do you want to die, you bitch? I'll rape you first, and then I'll cut off your flesh piece by piece. Guanya wasn't expecting the nurse to go back on her word, and was pissed. He pressed the knife to Guan Xian's neck, pressing down hard enough to see the blood dripping down. Don't be rash. You don't want the deal anymore, do you? Ling Shan stopped Guanya. What happened before was indeed a good opportunity. She could have killed Guanya if she'd ignored the casualties, but Ling Shan didn't dare take the risk. She really didn't dare. She didn't dare to make any more mistakes. Don't threaten me. Guanya curled his lips in disdain. Chapter 293. A kiss. Get him to bring the food to my room. Guanya ordered. He didn't want to get distracted, so he had to get someone to bring it to his room for safety. I'm not going. I'm not going, don't look for me. The waiter was quite young, evidently new to society. He'd never been in a situation like this before. Huang Guanya's roar scared him so much that he fell to the ground. If it weren't for a policeman beside him who quickly helped him up, he would have dropped the lunchbox in his hand. Guanya was speechless. There was someone this cowardly? He hadn't even done anything to the guy, and he'd gotten this scared just from a box of food? Wasn't he a little too much of a coward? Hurry up, get him to bring me the food, I'm hungry. Guanya yelled. No. I'm not going, definitely not. Not even if you beat me to death. The waiter shook his head, fear in his eyes. There was actually a puddle of water under him. The police officer couldn't take it anymore. The guy was pissing his pants? He frowned at Guanya. Why don't I bring it in for you? Don't worry, I don't have a gun. I'll hand it over right in front of you. No, you bring it to me? Do I know you? Who knows if you'll ambush me? Guanya was no idiot. There was no way he'd let the police get close to him. That was suicide. Ling Shan was helpless as well. You saw it yourself. There's no way he'll bring it to you. We can't force him to, can we? Do you want me to send you some? You're even worse. Guanya rejected the suggestion immediately. How about this? Get some random bystander to bring it in. As soon as Huang Guanya said this, the crowd that had been watching from the sidelines immediately backed away. No one wanted to be called out to be a strong man. It was fine for these people to watch the fun, but it was absolutely impossible for them to do something dangerous. No one wanted to die, and delivering food to a gangster like this was a suicide mission. Ling Shan looked at the people who'd been watching the show retreating, feeling a little pissed off. She told them to stay away, but they didn't, coming so close to watch the show. Why were they running away faster than rabbits now? But there was nothing she could do about it. All she could do was complain in her heart. All of a sudden, Ling Shan turned her head and looked at Lin Yi not too far away. Although he hated Lin Yi, he had to admit that Lin Yi was very skilled. Even if he was still a distance away from him, it should be enough to deal with Huang Guanya, right? He was a suitable candidate to deliver food. One had to say, Guanya and Ling Shan thought alike this time. The crowd dispersed, leaving only Lin Yi standing there like an idiot. Guanya thought that it was just the young man's bravery, and didn't think much of it. Student over there, bring my food in here, I'll give it to you. It's you. Stop looking, I'm talking to you. Lin Yi smiled inwardly, but put on a surprised face as he pointed at himself. Yes, hurry up, don't waste time. Guanya roared. You won't hurt me, will you? Lin Yi asked weakly, a little hesitant. I won't. Hurry up. Guanya said impatiently. But you said it, you won't hurt me? Lin Yi nodded. Ling Shan was overjoyed as she gave Lin Yi a look, but Lin didn't seem to see her at all. He went to get the food. Tang Yun wasn't expecting Lin Yi to be chosen by the gangster, panicking a little. She didn't want Lin Yi to take the risk. There were so many police officers here, it wouldn't be Lin Yi's turn, would it? She held onto Lin Yi's hand nervously. Lin? It's fine. Don't worry about my skills. Lin Yi whispered to Tang Yun. Tang Yun paused. She was right, she was too worried. Lin Yi was able to beat someone as cruel as He Bao half to death, and he was able to save her from the building without a scratch. He must be very strong, and she didn't have to worry about anything. Plus, He Bao didn't even pose a threat to Lin Yi with a gun, let alone this knife-wielding guy. But, you're the hero saving the damsel in distress. What if she marries you? Tang Yun started worrying about something else. This was the legendary hero saving the damsel in distress. Wasn't that the reason why she liked him? What if Guan Xen joined in and fought with her? Tang Yun couldn't care less about her embarrassment anymore. I can't just leave her to die, can I? Lin Yi didn't expect Tang Yun to be so meticulous. He squeezed her soft, moist hand. Then I won't. Then you should. Actually, Guan Xen is a good person. She's still worried about the patient in the room in a situation like this. Tang Yun respected Guan Xen. She was a kind girl. Hey, aren't you two going to die together? We'll talk about it after you send me food. Guanya wasn't too happy to see Lin Yi and a girl whispering sweet nothings to each other. Are you done yet? Let's talk about it when I come out. Ha, even the criminals don't want to. Lin Yi smiled. Yeah. Tang Yun nodded shyly. Be careful. Then I'll be careful if you kiss me. Lin Yi smiled evilly at Tang Yun. Tang Yun was awkward. This guy was still thinking about stuff like that at a time like this? She held herself back. Then, I'll wait for you to come out safely. Hey, wait for me. Lin Yi smiled and let go of Tang Yun's hand. He walked towards the officer and took the food from him before walking towards Guanya. Guanya was getting impatient as he pulled Guan Xen back, giving Lin Yi the space at the door. Come in and close the door. Okay. Lin Yi walked in hesitantly and closed the door. 10 seconds later, Lin Yi came out again and ran to Tang Yun. I'm out. Can you kiss me now? Lin Yi's voice wasn't loud, but Ling Shan could still hear him clearly. She was about to explode from the rage she was feeling. Her original plan was for Lin Yi to find a chance to take Guanya's blade, or kill Guanya. But did he really just give him a box of food and leave right after that? Chapter 294. Chapter 294, The Legendary Love Triangle. What do you mean? Lin Yi looked at Ling Shan, a little pissed off. He was in the middle of a romantic relationship with Tang Yun, so why was this girl always trying to ruin things? He glanced at her and said, If you have something to say, can't you say it later? Can't you see I'm busy? Busy? Was this guy treating this as serious business? Ling Shan almost fainted. She wanted to kick Lin Yi a couple times, but Lin Yi wasn't part of the police. She couldn't do anything to him. Ling Shan couldn't help but say coldly, Lin Yi, don't you know how to prioritize when it comes to relationships? You really went to deliver food to him? Couldn't you have found a chance to kill Guanya? Of course I did. Are you done yet? Are you trying to sabotage me? Lin Yi was about to explode. Was there something wrong with this girl? Guan Xen was still in there, so how could she let Guanya do whatever he wanted? Did she even have a brain? Killed him? Ling Shan blinked, not understanding what Lin Yi was getting at. But at that moment, the door opened completely, and Guan Xen rushed out, pouncing on Lin Yi as soon as she saw Lin Yi. You scared me to death. You scared me to death. Guan Xen hugged Lin Yi tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. Guan Xen was no longer the strong and righteous girl she'd been a moment ago. She turned into a fragile girl. She'd thrown caution to the wind and asked the police to kill Guanya because she was worried about the patient's well-being. That was the duty of a nurse, a sign of the kindness and selflessness of human nature. But now, she turned into a normal girl, looking for a place to hide from the wind and rain after the fright. She turned her head away, not saying anything. Ah! Lin Yi looked at Tang Yun helplessly, only to see her turn her head away with a pout, not saying anything. What could Tang Yun say? Although she felt a little wronged and a little jealous, Guan Xen had just been saved by Lin. She needed to be comforted. Tang Yun wasn't a petty person, so she could only pretend that she didn't see anything. But Tang Yun didn't understand. How did Lin Yi save Guan Xen? He only entered the ward for 10 seconds and then came out. I thought he was in a hurry to ask for a kiss. But now it seems that isn't the case. No matter how unbelievable it was, Guan Exin had managed to escape. There was only one possibility. The criminal had been taken care of by Lin Yi. King Yin didn't believe it, Ling Shan didn't believe it, and none of the police officers present believed it. It was too weird, too unbelievable. Ling Shan was just about to say something sarcastic when she saw Guan Exin running out after her. What the hell was going on? Ling Shan was completely dumbfounded. What the hell was going on? Ling Shan wasn't in the mood to ask Lin Yi anymore. She took the lead and charged into the room, but what she saw made her freeze up. Guanya was on the ground, the dagger in his hand falling to the side. His death couldn't have been more gruesome, his eyes bulging out, and his face filled with shock and rage. He didn't accept this, and he died with his eyes wide open. The way he died made Ling Shan speechless. It could be said that Guanya was killed in one hit, and the weapon made Ling Shan speechless, as well as a little disbelieving. It was a pair of chopsticks, the same chopsticks Lin Yi had brought with his lunchbox. At this moment, the chopsticks were directly stabbed into Huang Guanya's heart. Judging from the length of the chopsticks had directly pierced through Huang Guanya's heart. It was probably going to come out from his back. Lin Yi did this? How did he do it? Ling Shan's mind was filled with questions. 10 or so seconds, excluding the time it took to open the door and walk out, he had to put down the food, attack, snatch Guanya's dagger away, push Guan Exin away, and stab the chopsticks into Guanya's heart. In a matter of seconds, he did all of this? All in one go? Ling Shan was biased against Lin Yi, but she had to admit that it was too fast. Guanya wasn't even able to scream before he was dead. Ling Shan asked herself if she'd been the one delivering the food, would she have been able to do it this fast? And without harming the hostages? Ling Shan really wanted to say that she could do it, but she hesitated, shaking her head. Ling Shan ignored Guanya's body for now and ran over to Wuxia's bed. The bed was already dyed red with blood, and Guanya had stabbed him a few times in the abdomen, and it was bleeding profusely. Call the doctor. Ling Shan yelled at Wang Li, who'd rushed in after her. Wang Li was surprised by Lin Yi's strength as well, but he was even more puzzled. Wasn't Lin Yi Captain Song's boyfriend? Why was he asking for a kiss from another pretty girl in front of Captain Song? Could it be that they were in a love triangle? No wonder Captain Song had such a bad temper, giving Lin Yi a hard time. Wang Li didn't stop his footsteps even for a second, calling the doctor the moment he reached the door. The doctors and nurses had already been notified by the police and were waiting not far away, and they all rushed over as soon as the matter was over. Guanya. Ling Shan didn't even think about saving him. There was no need to do anything at all, he was dead already. Guanya's life or death didn't matter to her. The guy was a psycho, and other than saying some disgusting things, she wouldn't get any useful information out of him. As long as Wuxia was fine, it would be the key to the case. The doctors and nurses pushed Wuxia to the surgery room, and the remaining police officers started cleaning up the scene and collecting the body. Ahem. Tang Yun couldn't hold it in anymore. How could he keep hugging her like this? What was he trying to do, even in front of her? Nothing had happened yet, and he was already flirting. Guan Exin heard Tang Yun's coughing and came back to her senses, realizing that she was hugging Lin Yi tightly. She let go embarrassed. It was just her instinct. Lin Yi saved her, and she subconsciously thought that Lin Yi's embrace was her safe haven. She didn't think too much about it, but hugging Lin Yi in front of his girlfriend was a little embarrassing. Chapter 295. Sending back and forth, the two were too far apart. They were about the same age, but they had different statuses. It was impossible for them to be together. On the other hand, Tang Yun was a good match for him. They'd have a bright future together if they got into the same university. Guan Exin sighed softly, feeling a little dejected. This was the first time she'd felt something for a man, and it wasn't hers. He's not my boyfriend, Tang Yun said, embarrassed by Guan Exin's apology. Guan Exin smiled. This girlfriend of Lin Yi was quite an interesting one. Tang Yun was getting embarrassed by Guan Exin's smile. Guan Exin sis, what are you laughing at? If he's not, then he's not. You can take him if you like. Take him? If he's not your boyfriend, how can you just give him to me? Guan Xian couldn't help but tease Tang Yun. Guan Xian was just a girl who hadn't experienced much of the world. At home, in the hospital, and in front of her friends, she was still a kid. But in front of Tang Yun, who was 2 years younger than her, she'd naturally put on the airs of an older sister. Tang Yun paused. He wasn't her boyfriend, so why did she have to send him back and forth? Lin Yi smiled bitterly on the sideline. He wasn't a commodity? How could she send him back and forth? Miss Guan Xian, is it? Please come with us for a statement. Ling Shan walked over, frowning as she looked at Guan Xian, who'd just gotten off Lin Yi's body. This pretty nurse was related to Lin Yi as well. Is there something wrong with your head? Lin Yi turned around. Can't you see that idiot's injured her neck? Idiot? Ling Shan paused, smiling bitterly inside. Only Lin Yi would call Guanya an idiot. The man who'd made her feel like she was facing a great enemy was nothing more than an idiot in Lin Yi's eyes. But Ling Shan couldn't say anything. After all, Lin Yi had taken care of Guanya in a matter of seconds. In front of Lin Yi, Guanya really was an idiot. However, Lin Yi's words were a little unpleasant to the ear. What did he mean by his brain wasn't sick? This guy has asked me more than once if I'm crazy. Don't be so sarcastic, right? Lin Yi, what did you say? Ling Shan glared at Lin. You have to come with me for a statement. Do you know that you killed someone? I am a good Samaritan, all right? Lin Yi shrugged. Besides, you are the one who told me to kill him. When did I tell you to kill him? Ling Shan asked. You didn't ask me to kill him, so why are you asking me if I can't find a chance to kill Huang Guanya? Lin Yi curled his lips. He didn't want to argue with Ling Shan about pointless things like this, but the tigress wouldn't stop. Lin Yi had no choice but to play along. You? Ling Shan was speechless. That's what I asked after the fact. Oh, you asking after the fact means that you wanted me to kill him. Lin Yi said. Why else would you be giving me that look? Are your eyes broken? Facial paralysis. Who? Ling Shan glared at Lin Yi like a tigress. She wanted to eat Lin Yi alive, but she was always losing in front of him. Ling Shan was starting to wonder if he was her nemesis. Lu Wangli looked at the furious Ling Shan from afar, and then at Guan Xian, who was close to Lin. He was a bit troubled. Could it be that the love triangle wasn't enough, and now there was a four-way love triangle? Alright, enough with the you. You owe me another favor. I'll be looking for your car this afternoon. Wait for me. Lin Yi said before turning to Guan Xian, ignoring Ling Shan. Go put some ointment on your neck, there's still blood. Yeah. Guan Xian was a nurse, and naturally, she knew the severity of her injury. It was just a small cut, nothing serious. Guan Xian was taken away by the police after applying the ointment. Ling Shan, on the other hand, couldn't make up her mind to go get Lin Yi again. Wasn't he looking for her car in the afternoon? She'll just do it then. On the way back to Fin's room, Lin Yi reached out to grab Tang Yun's hand, but Tang Yun shook it off shyly. When? Lin Yi asked with a grin. What? Tang Yun paused. Give me a kiss. Lin said. Next time. Tang Yun rolled her eyes at Lin. She'd lost all her courage after what happened to Guan Xian. How could she have the courage to kiss Lin Yi? Then I'll kiss you? Lin Yi naturally knew why Tang Yun was unhappy. Go to hell. Tang Yun, naturally, wouldn't agree. Ha. Lin Yi wasn't in a rush. He walked into the room with Tang Yun and looked at the time. It was almost time for afternoon classes. Kang Xiaobo was saying goodbye to Fin. Fin hadn't made a final decision about accompanying Kang Xiaobo to his family's banquet. She needed to think about it. Kang Xiaobo didn't rush her. He only asked her to give him an answer after thinking about it. The four of them left the hospital and stopped a taxi. Lin Yi got off near the villa area. He already told Kang Xiaobo and Tang Yun that he was going to register his car in the afternoon. Lin Yi skipping classes had become a habit anyways. They didn't mind it anymore. Tang Yun couldn't do anything about it. Young Master Lin was a student like that. It was impossible for him to stay in school and study peacefully. Lin Yi drove the van without a license plate all the way to Songshan's criminal investigation unit. Coincidentally, he didn't bump into any traffic police. Otherwise, he'd have to call Ling Shan again. Ling Shan sat in her office, feeling vexed. Wujia had been saved, But he wasn't out of danger yet. He was on a ventilator, and she didn't know when he'd wake up. It wasn't easy to find a clue for the psycho murderer case, and now it was gone. Ling Shan was feeling a lot of pressure. Was she really qualified for her current job? Ling Shan didn't say anything sarcastic when Lin Yi came. She didn't dare offend Lin. She used to rely on Huaijuan to solve cases, but now she relied on Lin Yi. Ling Shan felt that she was such a piece of trash. She couldn't solve cases without relying on others? It was a contradictory feeling. Ling Shan thought that way, but she couldn't do anything about it. She copied down the van's frame number and engine number and called the car management office to get the information on the van. The owner of the van was actually the owner of a car dealership in the second-hand car market. Chapter 296. A date at night. The owner of the car dealership waited for a couple of days, but Heibao didn't show up. He called the phone Heibao left behind, but it was turned off as well. Ling Shan didn't bother explaining after hearing the owner's words. She told him to come to the police station and accompany Lin Yi to the car dealership. As long as the car wasn't stolen, Ling Shan didn't care where Lin Yi got it from. "Alright, you're done here. Can you fill in your statement?" Ling Shan said as she took out her notebook for Lin. "Forget it, make one up yourself. The credit's all yours anyway, I don't want any of it." Lin said, "No." Ling Shan refused flatly. Lin Yi had killed Guanya in front of so many people. How could she give the credit back to him? What would people say then? "Let me make a call." Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with her. He dialed Huaijuan's number and handed the phone to Ling Shan after a few words. "Listen." Ling Shan took the phone from Lin Yi and listened to Huaijuan's voice. She wasn't too happy with the order, but she still nodded obediently. "Got it, Shifiang." Ling Shan frowned as she handed the phone back to Lin. Just what was this guy's relationship with Huaijuan? The selfless Huaijuan's image in Ling Shan's heart crumbled the moment he got involved with Lin. "Alright, you can leave now," Ling Shan said decisively. Since Huaijuan said that the credit was hers, then it was hers. The criminal police were all old subordinates of Huaijuan, and no one would object if Huaijuan gave the word. Don't come looking for me next time if you're going to be like that." Lin Yi was a little pissed as well. He was a special agent, and he didn't even pay for it. What was with this attitude? Ling Shan glared at Lin Yi, not saying anything. "What the hell are you so cocky for? Do you think you're invincible? If there's something you can't solve later, just wait and see how I'll mock and ridicule you. For now, I'll endure it." Lin Yi didn't force Ling Shan to say anything. To him, it didn't matter if she said anything or not. After leaving the police station, Lin Yi saw a fat guy looking left and right at the entrance of the police station. "Mr. Wang." Lin Yi walked over and asked. "Yes, it's me." Wang Mingri greeted him with a smile. "You are Captain Song's friend, right? Shall we transfer the ownership right now?" "Oh, let's go." "Thank you, President Wang." Lin Yi nodded. Although Wang Mingri saw that Lin Yi wasn't the person who bought the car that day, since Captain Song of the criminal police team called, this person shouldn't be a problem. Captain Song wouldn't scam him for a 10,000 kwai car, so Wang Mingri didn't ask any questions and went to the car management office to help Lin Yi. Before leaving, he gave Lin Yi a business card, telling him to call him if Lin Yi wanted to buy a car in the future. Whether it was a new car or an old one, Wang Mingri knew people who could help. Lin Yi thanked him and put the business card away, getting ready to drive to school. This car was Lin Yi's private property now. He didn't need to ask for Mingyao's permission to drive it to and from school every day. Lin Yi's phone rang before he even reached school. He took it out and saw that it was Xu Emin's number. "Grandpa Guan." Lin Yi quickly picked up. What are you busy with?" Xu Emin's voice came from the other side of the phone. "Nothing, I'm driving to school." "What's up, Grandpa Guan?" Lin asked. "Do you have time tonight? My granddaughter is on leave tomorrow, so I'll get her to cook a few dishes and we'll have a drink." Xu Emin hadn't discussed medicine with Lin Yi in a long time, so he couldn't hold it in anymore. He didn't call Lin Yi, and Lin didn't come looking for him. He had no choice but to thicken his skin and call Lin. "Tonight? Sure." Lin Yi had wanted to talk to Xu Emin about the idea of setting up a medical company, but he didn't have the time. Naturally, Lin Yi wouldn't reject Xu Emin's offer, since Xu Emin was calling him today. "It's a deal then. I'll be waiting for you at home on time." Xuemin was very happy to hear that Lin Yi had agreed to come. No problem, I'll be there on time. Lin Yi smiled. After hanging up on Lin, Xuemin called his granddaughter Guan Exin. Guan Xian had just finished her statement and was given a few days off by the director, telling her to go home and get some rest. Guan Xian's words, "Don't worry about me, hurry up and shoot. The patient in the room was stabbed by him, his life will be in danger if we don't save him now," had spread like wildfire in the hospital. Even the media came to interview her. Director Qin was very happy, his face beaming like a blooming flower. Nowadays, many reporters like to report negative things about the hospital, and Director Qin was very angry about it. But after Guan Xian's incident, Director Qin didn't back down. Who would dare say bad things about our hospital now? Our nurses were the best, and when faced with a life-threatening situation, the first thing they thought of was the patient's safety, not themselves. Of course, other than that, no one knew the details of Guanya's death. Only the police were there, and the others could only stand far away. They could hear Guan Xian scream, but they didn't know that it was Lin Yi who killed Guanya. Director Qin wanted to take care of Guan Xin because her father was a shareholder of the hospital, but he couldn't find a good reason to do so. After all, he had to make sure that the person he was promoting was convinced, right? But this time, he was going to make an exception to promote Guan Xian, and no one would say anything against it. She was such an excellent nurse, who else would he promote if not her? While giving Guan Xian a day off, Director Qin had already decided to hold a meeting with the hospital's leaders in the afternoon to discuss Guan Xian's personnel changes. Wasn't the old head nurse in the inpatient department about to retire? Let's promote Guan Xin to vice head nurse first, and then wait for her to take over. As for whether Guan Xian could achieve greater things in the future, that would depend on herself. Guan Xian had just left the hospital and was about to go home when her phone rang. She took it out and saw that it was a call from her family. Guan Xian froze. Did Grandpa find out about her injury? Guan Xin frowned, cursing the hospital's leader for being a big mouth and a flatterer. She was afraid that Grandpa would be worried, so she told Director Qin not to tell her father or Grandpa about it. But why was Grandpa calling so soon? Grandpa? Guan Xian picked up the phone and called Grandpa, a little uncertain. Xin, are you on leave tomorrow? Guan Xuemin asked with a smile. Chapter 297. Guan Xian's thoughts. Ask old Qin for a day off later and go home early. Guan Xuemin said with a smile. Go home early? What's up? Guan Xin paused. It looked like her grandfather really didn't know what had happened to her, nor did he know that she'd been asked to go home. A friend's coming over tonight, the handsome young man I told you about. He's so young, but his medical skills are amazing. Guan Xuemin smiled. I'd like to introduce you two to each other. He's about the same age as you, so you two should have something in common. Oh. Guan Xin lost interest as soon as she heard that. Lin Yi's figure floated into her mind once more. Guan Xuemin didn't see Guan Xian's expression, so he thought she was shy when he heard her reply. Then it's settled. When you get back, I'll have Auntie Lu buy some groceries with you. Make a few of your specialties tonight and leave a good impression. Auntie Lu was Guan Xuemin's nanny, responsible for taking care of her grandfather's daily needs and buying groceries. Guan Xin was a bit reluctant, but it wasn't right for her to not give face to someone her grandfather respected. Getting to know him was fine, but getting to know him was out of the question. Lin Yi parked the car at the food street behind the school. A man with a fierce face walked up to Lin Yi as soon as he got out. Hey kid, don't park here. School's almost over and there's a stall here. The fierce-looking man was a stinky tofu vendor on the food street, and Lin Yi had parked at his brother's stall. His brother hadn't come yet, so he couldn't let anyone else take his spot. Lin Yi frowned. He didn't think there'd be so many problems with parking. This food street belonged to his family? Even the traffic police hadn't said anything about parking here, and here someone was looking for trouble. The fierce-looking man jumped when he saw Lin Yi raise his head. Fuck, he'd gotten himself into trouble. Master Lin, it's fine, just park here. It's fine, it's fine. The ferocious-looking man had clearly seen how Lin Yi had dealt with Zhang Biaoqiao that night. How could he dare to provoke such a person? Lin Yi shook his head, feeling a little amused. Just a moment ago he was so fierce, but in the blink of an eye his face changed. Then I'll stop here? It will stop here every day. No problem. Young Master Lin, I asked my brother to change seats. How could I affect your parking? Don't worry, I'll help you look after your car. I guarantee that no one will dare to scratch your car. The fierce man patted his chest and guaranteed. It wasn't a big deal for his younger brother to change the location of his stall, but if he angered Lin Yi, it would be a big problem. When he returned to class, he was just in time for the last self-study period. Seeing that Lin Yi was back, Kong Xiaobo immediately went over. Boss, you're back. I want to talk to you about something. Talk about something? What's the matter? Say it. Lin Yi looked at Kong Xiaobo and didn't know what he wanted. Can you lend me 200 yuan? Kong Xiaobo said with some embarrassment. 200 yuan? What do you want? No way, you don't even have 200 yuan? Lin Yi was a little surprised. I spent a bit too much this month. I always went to see Xiaofan and bought a lot of snacks. Kong Xiaobo was a little embarrassed. It's the end of the month. I don't have any money. I'll pay you back next month when I get my allowance. Oh, it's fine. You can use it. Lin Yi gave Kong Xiaobo 200 yuan. Lin Yi still had this bit of money. I'm thinking of buying a cheaper phone for Xiaofan. 200 yuan is enough, Kong Xiaobo said. Otherwise, it's not convenient to contact her. Peh. Lin Yi smiled. You keep the 200 yuan to spend. I'll pay for the phone. You're giving her a gift. No matter what, you have to buy a decent one. You can't just buy a 200 yuan phone, right? Thank you, boss. I won't be polite. When I'm rich in the future, I'll repay you. Kong Xiaobo didn't refuse and directly took it. I also want to buy a phone, and also one for Tang Yun. Lin Yi said. Tomorrow afternoon, let's go to the phone shop together. Hey. All right, boss. Can you lend me your phone again? Kong Xiaobo whispered. What do you want to see? Yushu or Mengyao? Lin Yi gave this guy a knock on the head. You already have Xiaofan. Don't think too much. You can even see through this. Kong Xiaobo was a little embarrassed. It's just for the eyes. I'm not fated with the 3 school beauties. Tang Yun is my sister-in-law now. I don't dare to look around. I can only admire these 2 beauties without an owner. Study hard. Lin Yi smiled helplessly. I won't let you look. I won't look. Kong Xiaobo was a little depressed. Tell me the truth, boss. Who does this phone belong to? Why does it look like a girl's phone? Can you tell me? Also, the beetle last time, you said it wasn't yours. I think it's a girl's too. Since you want to know so much, I'll tell you. Lin Yi looked at Kong Xiaobo and said, the car and phone are actually Yushu's. We're living together. Ah. Xiaobo paused. TSK, Xiaobo said. Fine, I won't ask you anymore, all right? Lin Yi shrugged. Most of the time, no one believed the truth. But it was a good way to solve the problem once and for all. Kong Xiaobo wouldn't ask about this anymore. Even if he knew the truth, Lin Yi didn't lie to him. He was living with Yushu and Mengyao as well. But, to be more precise, they were living together. Lin Yi sent Mengyao a text after school, telling her that he had something to do and would be back later. Mengyao was already used to this type of text. She hired this guy, so why did he have so many things to do? Guan Xen was a little helpless at her grandpa's praises. If that guy was so good, why didn't he take him in as a godson or something? Why did he want her to hang out with him? Guan Xian already had someone in her heart. How could she accept someone else at a time like this? But Guan Xen couldn't tell her grandpa about this. She could only agree to it and walked to the kitchen unhappily. He wants me to cook with my heart? But if I cook well, what if he takes a fancy to me? What should I do? Wouldn't I be looking for trouble? Guan Xen thought that she might as well make it a little worse so that he wouldn't want to eat it again. Chapter 298. Chapter 298 Guan Xueming's Selfish Motives. Guan Xen was born into a family of scholars and doctors. House Guan was now on the same level as some of the bigger houses, but Guan Xian didn't have any of the bad habits of a rich young miss. Her parents were busy with work, and her father was a shareholder of the hospital, but his company was out of town. It was rare for him and his mother to come home. Guan Xian had been by her grandfather's side since she was young, so she learned how to clean the house, wash clothes, and cook. She managed the house neatly, and although Nanny Lu was there, Guan Xian would always help Nanny Lu every time she came home. Her cooking skills were superb, and she was known as the super invincible beauty god of cooking in the family area of the medical school. Whenever Guan Xian cooked, her grandfather's old friends would shamelessly come over to eat with her. Guan Xian's cultured and refined demeanor made her the object of admiration for all the boys her age in the medical school's family area. However, the Guan family's strict upbringing forbade dating before graduation, so many admirers were deterred from pursuing her. Guan Xueming, on the other hand, entered society and started working after graduation. It was just that Guan Xueming's reputation was getting bigger and bigger, and those old friends who came to visit him stopped bringing it up. Guan Xueming's reputation was now on the same level as the bigger houses, and no one knew if Guan Xian would marry into a rich family, but Guan Xian was a good wife and loving mother. She was definitely the first choice for a rich family's daughter-in-law. Guan Xian breathed a sigh of relief. She just graduated, and her career hadn't even started yet. How could she be in the mood for a relationship? But even if she wasn't in the mood, there were times when love couldn't be stopped. When Guan Xian had first developed feelings for Lin, she'd found it strange and inconceivable. It was the first time she'd developed feelings for a boy, and the old Guan Xian had even thought that there was something wrong with her sexual orientation. Perhaps she was just a little late in her development? Guan Xian comforted herself, but she felt that there was no longer any possibility between her and Lin. She'd fantasized about it, but reality was reality. Guan Xian had chosen to run away from him the first time she saw him. But after running away, she couldn't help but want to see Lin Yi again. It was a conflicted feeling. She knew that it was impossible, but she still wanted to see him. It was like a moth flying into a flame. It was somewhat impulsive and irrational, but it was uncontrollable. Xianxia, do you need Auntie Lu's help? Auntie Lu's voice came from outside the kitchen. After tidying up the house, Auntie Lu came to help Guan Xian in the kitchen. No need, I can do it myself. Guan Xian rejected Auntie Lu's offer of help, but she couldn't let Auntie Lu come. If Auntie Lu saw her cooking secret, she'd definitely stop her from messing around. Auntie Lu didn't think much about it. She knew that Master Guan was going to introduce a handsome young man to Guan Xian. Auntie Lu thought that Guan Xian was tempted and wanted to show off her invincible cooking skills. If someone were to help, how would they show off the super invincible young god of cooking in the universe? One had to admit that Guan Xian's cooking skills were excellent. Even though the seasoning was messed up, the dishes were still delicious and tasteless. If one didn't taste it and just looked at the appearance, it would definitely make one salivate. Whether it was the color or the fragrance, they were all excellent. But after one taste, one would find that every dish was either salty, sour, or sweet. In short, none of the dishes had a normal taste. Before Guan Xian took the dishes out of the wok, she would add a random seasoning to the dishes. Guan Xueming looked at Guan Xian, who was busy cooking, and he was happy. Such a virtuous, beautiful, gentle, and well-mannered granddaughter should be able to make Lin Yi enjoy it so much that he forgot to go home, right? If Guan Xian came to his house a few more times, all the medical problems he had would be solved by her. If Guan Xueming could become his grandson-in-law, the Guan clan would be prosperous for the next 100 years. Although the Guan clan's status was comparable to the big houses, and even the heads of the big houses were respectful to them, Guan Xueming knew very well that it was all because of him. He was Miracle Dr. Guan, and that was why the Guan clan's status was so high. Everyone would die one day, and knowing a miracle doctor was the same as having a guarantee of life. This was also why the Guan clan's status had risen so quickly these past few years. But if Guan Xueming was gone one day, the Guan clan's status would plummet. Without a miracle doctor, the Guan clan would be no different from a normal small family. Although Guan Xueming wasn't someone who cared about fame and fortune, he could not think about his children and grandchildren. Especially his granddaughter, Guan Xueming was even more worried about her. Finding a good husband for her had become his main concern. Looking at Lin Yi reminded him of Guan Xian. If his granddaughter could be with Lin Yi, then the Guan clan's reputation wouldn't fall because of his passing, but would instead rise. Guan Shuimin knew very well, what kind of miracle doctor was he? Lin Yi was the miracle doctor. And that miracle doctor he met 20 years ago. That was the real deal. His eldest son's family had settled in Yanjing, living a wealthy life. His youngest son and his wife were busy with business, and only their daughter Guan Xian was by their side. Guan Shuimin didn't have much to worry about with his two sons. His eldest son didn't have any skills, but he'd made quite a bit of money through Guan Shuimin's connections, enough for them to live the rest of their lives. Guan Shuimin didn't have a good impression of his eldest son, and he didn't want to return to a small place like Songshan ever since he'd been exposed to the upper class. He only came back once during the holidays, which disappointed Guan Shuimin quite a bit. His youngest son, on the other hand, came back often and was a righteous person, albeit a bit old-fashioned. He relied on his own ability to do business and never mentioned Guan Shuimin's name outside. Logically speaking, with his youngest son's personality, if he didn't have any background or backing, he would definitely be disadvantaged in society. However, his luck wasn't bad. In his early years, he met a benefactor, a legendary figure. Unfortunately, this person also disappeared from everyone's sight in the same year as the genius doctor who had taught Guan Shuimin, becoming a legend. Xn, there's no need to make so many dishes. It's enough to eat. Guan Shuimin was a bit puzzled as he watched his granddaughter run around, preparing a table full of delicacies. Had his granddaughter really grown up? Was she starting to care about her marriage? Was she going to show off in front of this young man? Chapter 299. How about instant noodles? His youngest son had received guidance from a great benefactor, and his business had grown considerably, but Guan Shuimin's only regret was that there was no one in the family who studied medicine. His granddaughter's weak personality meant that she could only be a nurse, and she wasn't cut out to study medicine either. That was why Guan Shuimin had always wanted to find someone to pass on his legacy to, or he wouldn't have been so surprised to see Lin Yi at the bookstore and wanted to take Lin Yi as his last disciple. But that thought was gone now. His medical skills weren't even a third of Lin Yi's, so what was the point of passing on his legacy? It wasn't even certain who would be whose teacher. But no matter what, Guan Shuimin had something to look forward to. Ding! The doorbell rang. Lin Yi parked the car in front of Guan Shuimin's villa and pressed the doorbell. Guan Shuimin was overjoyed at the ring. He quickly stood up and waved at Auntie Lu, who was about to open the door. He'd open the door himself. Guan Shuimin didn't dare put on any airs when it came to Lin Yi. There was no such thing as learning, and Lin Yi was better than him. Lin Yi, you're here. Guan Shuimin said happily when he opened the door and saw Lin Yi. Ah, nice to meet you, Grandpa Guan. I came right after school and didn't bring any gifts, so please don't mind me. Lin Yi smiled as he spread his empty hands. Other people brought gifts when they came to Guan Shuimin's house, but Lin Yi came empty-handed. What gifts? Guan Shuimin was amused by Lin Yi's words. I'm happy that you're here. It wasn't easy for me to be so thick-skinned as to call you and invite you over for a drink or two. If you keep being so polite, I won't call you again no matter how thick-skinned I am. All right, then I'll come over when I'm free. Lin Yi said with a smile. That's more like it. Guan Shuimin nodded matter-of-factly. Guan Xian was walking out of the kitchen with a plate of sweet and sour mustard fish in her hands when she heard someone boasting that he could come over for free food. She wasn't happy at all. Or you're here to freeload? Did he really not treat himself as an outsider? All right, since you came to eat, I'll let you eat your fill. Let's see if you dare to come again next time. Tonight's sour, sweet, bitter, spicy, and numbing feast will definitely be fresh in your memory. However, the voice sounded familiar. Had it been to his house before? Guan Xian frowned, but didn't pay much attention to it. She was just about to put the fish on the table when she looked up and froze, almost dropping the fish on the floor. Guan Xian's eyes widened in disbelief. Why was he the one who wanted to freeload all the time in the future? Guan Xian? Lin Yi was startled. What was Guan Xian doing here? He suddenly remembered what Guan Shuimin had said about his granddaughter. Could Guan Xian be his granddaughter? Both of them had the same surname. Your grandpa Guan's granddaughter? You're the handsome young man Grandpa was talking about? Guan Xian blushed. Why was he the handsome young man Grandpa was talking about? Didn't he already have a girlfriend? Why was Grandpa introducing him to her? Guan Xian didn't know what to do. She wanted to hide her feelings for Lin Yi from the bottom of her heart, but she lowered her head shyly. Handsome young man? Lin Yi paused at the title and smiled bitterly. I'm not considered a young genius, but I'm young and promising. I can barely call myself that. Bragging. Guan Xian couldn't help but smile. What kind of person was this immodest? Wasn't handsome young and promising about the same? Grandma Wang was praising herself for selling her melons. You know Xen? Guan Shuemin was afraid that his granddaughter would be conflicted, but he understood after seeing her expression. It seemed like the two knew each other a long time ago, so he was worrying needlessly. Yes, we just met today. Lin Yi nodded. Oh, just met today? Looks like we're very close. Guan Shuemin listened to Lin Yi's words. That saves me the trouble of introducing myself. Since you know Xian, it's even easier. Let's skip the introductions and eat. I've been starving for a long time. I eat early every day, and I waited until now just to wait for you. Alright, I won't hold back then. Lin Yi smiled as he turned to Guan Xian. What a coincidence, I was supposed to try out your cooking today. Guan Xian jumped and ran towards the kitchen with the mustard fish in her hands. She never would have thought that the handsome young man Grandpa was talking about was Lin. She wouldn't have made these weird dishes if she'd known earlier. She would have prepared with all her heart and skills if she'd known earlier. Guan Xian regretted it a little. If Lin ate the feast she prepared, he'd probably never come again. What should she do? Guan Xian wanted to throw away all the dishes on the table and make a new one. Xian, where are you going? Why are you taking the fish away? Grandpa loves sweet and sour fish the most. Bring it back, Grandpa can't wait. Guan Shuemin waved his hand at Guan Xian. I'm going back to the pot. The dishes are cold, I'm going back to the pot. Guan Xian said as she tried to grab the other dishes from the table. She could just throw them away and make a new one. There were still some ingredients left, so she could make as much as she could. Back to the pot? Back to what pot? It's not cold, it's steaming. Stop messing around and put it down. Guan Shuemin was confused by Guan Xian's actions. What was she doing? Guan Xian didn't have a choice. She reluctantly put down the dishes and the sweet and sour fish. Alright, Xian, you sit down too. Let's eat together. Guan Shuemin couldn't wait to open a bottle of Maodai and pour a cup for Lin Yi before pouring one for himself. Alright. Guan Xian was reluctant. But there was nothing she could do. She sat down with a sad face. I've heard from Grandpa Guan that you're a great cook. The dishes on the table are delicious. Let me try them. Lin Yi smiled as he picked up his chopsticks. Grandpa, I have an idea. Why don't we eat instant noodles? Drinking wine and eating instant noodles is delicious, right? What do you think? Guan Xian suddenly stood up. I haven't had instant noodles in a long time. Why don't we throw away all the dishes? Chapter 300. Absolutely disgusting. What the hell are you doing? Fancy? There's so much good food here. Why are you eating instant noodles? Shuemin was getting a little pissed off. Lin Yi was a guest he'd invited. Even if the two of them knew each other, or had some sort of conflict, there was no need to be like this. Guan Xian stuck her tongue out, a little embarrassed. Do you want instant noodles, Lin Yi? I'm fine. Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Why was Guan Xian so insistent on him eating instant noodles? He didn't want to turn her down either, so he answered without thinking. That's great. I like it too. I'll go make 2 buckets. Guan Xian was a little happy at Lin Yi's answer. I'll go right now. Guan Xian, sit there. Shuemin was so angry that he didn't even bother calling her Xian anymore, choosing to just call her by her full name. Oh. Guan Xian felt wronged, but couldn't tell him the real reason. She could only sit down gloomily. If she'd known this would happen, she wouldn't have made the food so disgusting. Even if she'd just cooked it casually, it would still have been delicious. I haven't had instant noodles in a long time, I kind of miss the taste. Lin Yi smiled. Grandpa Guan, don't be mad, Guan Xian's just too passionate. Guan Xian looked at Lin Yi gratefully. She was about to poison him to death, but he was still helping her out. What a nice guy. Yeah, he wouldn't have taken a bullet for her if he wasn't a nice guy, and he wouldn't have risked his life to save her today. Girls in their prime always like to fantasize about having a Prince Charming by their side. It was the dream of every girl her age, and it was obvious that Lin Yi wasn't as good as she thought he was, but Guan Xian had taken it upon herself to make Lin Yi her Prince Charming. In fact, it was very simple for Lin Yi to block the bullet. No matter who was behind him, he just didn't want to hurt the innocent. Even if it wasn't Guan Xian who was kidnapped, Lin Yi would have done it if it was anyone else he was familiar with. If Guan Xian knew that Lin Yi acted so quickly in exchange for a kiss from Tang Yun, what would she think? Looking at his granddaughter's grateful expression towards Lin Yi, Xuemin was even more surprised this time. These two didn't seem to have a conflict, did they? What kind of relationship was that? Why is Xin acting so weird today? Lin Yi actually cooperated? Alright, let's not talk so much. Since you're familiar with it, let's eat it. I'll go first. Guan Xuemin picked up a piece of sweet and sour fish with his chopsticks. Guan Xian wanted to stop him, but it was too late. She could only grimace and wait for her grandpa's scolding. This fish is very tender, not bad? Guan Xuemin's eyes widened as he spat out the fish in his mouth. He gasped, "What's in it?" My old life." Xuemin thought that the fish was soft and tasty when it first entered his mouth, but the next moment, a wave of spiciness rushed to his nostrils and almost made him cry, "Grandpa, I'm sorry." Guan Xian hurriedly passed a bottle of water to Xuemin. "I accidentally knocked over the mustard." Knocked over the mustard? Xuemin took a sip of water to catch his breath. "Then why did you bring it here? Didn't you kill Grandpa?" "I said I was going to cook it again." "Grandpa, you didn't let me." Guan Xian said carefully. "Alright, forget it, we'll pass on the sweet and sour fish. Have Auntie Lu take it away, we'll eat something else." Xuemin waved his hand helplessly. I'm sorry, I made a fool of myself in front of you. Come, let's eat something else." Xian isn't usually like this. She might have been a bit careless when she heard that a handsome young man like you was coming. "She's pretty good at cooking, why don't you try some?" Lin Yi looked oddly at the sweet and sour fish Auntie Lu was taking away. Knocked over the mustard? Lin Yi picked up his chopsticks and picked up a piece of stir-fried pork with bamboo shoots. He was just about to eat when Guan Xian said, "Wait?" Lin Yi turned to Guan Xian. "Let's just eat instant noodles," Guan Xian said weakly. Lin Yi had a rough idea of what was going on by now. He stuffed the bamboo shoot into his mouth. It was very salty. Lin Yi picked up a few dishes closer to him and tasted them. They were either too sweet or too spicy. None of them were tasty. What do you think? Not bad, right? Guan Xuemin, on the other hand, was waiting for Lin Yi's praise. As long as he had Lin Yi's appetite, he wouldn't have to worry about Lin Yi stopping by to discuss medical matters with him. Not bad. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "Him?" Xuemin paused. Wasn't Lin Yi's expectations a bit too high? And this was just not bad? Which of his old friends didn't praise his granddaughter Xian's cooking? Even their children and grandchildren were shameless enough to come here for free meals. His granddaughter was hailed as the invincible beauty goddess of cooking in the family quarters. But since it was Lin Yi who said it, Xuemin couldn't argue with him. After all, Lin Yi was his teacher now. "Hi, your taste is pretty high. This old man thinks it's not bad already," Xuemin said as he picked up another dish. "High taste? That's high." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He'd already made up his mind by saying that it was okay, but he'd said something against his will. Xuemin spat out a mouthful of stir-fried pork with bamboo shoots. He quickly drank a mouthful of water and said, Xian, did you kill the salt cellar?" Guan Xian lowered her head in embarrassment, not daring to look at her grandpa and Lin. Today was too embarrassing. Xuemin quickly tried a few other dishes with his chopsticks and spat them out again. He finally understood that Lin Yi's not bad, was already praising today's food. Today's food couldn't even be described as bad, it was unbelievably bad. XNXN this food? Xuemin's eyes widened. You don't usually cook like this? Grandpa Guan, maybe XNXN was frightened today. Lin Yi wanted to say a few words to comfort Guan Xn, but she cut him off. Guan Xian didn't want her grandpa to know what happened at the hospital today. It'd make him worry, so she cut Lin Yi off and said her real purpose. Grandpa, I'm sorry. I actually did it on purpose. On purpose? You made it this bad on purpose? What's going on? Xuemin blinked, not expecting Guan Xian to say that. Chapter 301. Xian's bias. I think he wouldn't want to come back after tasting my cooking, he's afraid of being poisoned. Guan Xian explained sheepishly. Lin Yi had more or less guessed Guan Xian's intentions. Guan Xuemin had praised his granddaughter to Lin Yi more than once, saying that she was a good cook and a well-mannered person. Lin Yi naturally understood the old man's intentions. Guan Xuemin, on the other hand, must have told Guan Xian something similar back at home as well. It was only natural that Guan Xian was conflicted. Any girl wouldn't be too happy if they were told that a handsome young man was coming to their house, asking them to get to know him better. Guan Xuemin was pissed off. This was the first time he'd lost face. Lin is my guest, how could you do this? It's fine if you guys know each other, but if it were someone you don't know, they'd be slamming the door and walking out already. How is this treating someone to a meal? You're trying to poison him to death. I'm sorry, Grandpa. Guan Xian lowered her head, realizing that she'd gone too far. She hadn't thought too much about it before, she'd only wanted the young man to leave as soon as possible. Now that she thought about it, where would her grandpa's face go? It's fine, Grandpa Guan. Don't blame Guan Xian. Lin Yi smiled. Actually, to tell you the truth, you kept telling me how good your granddaughter was, and I didn't even dare to visit you. It's normal for Guan Xian to feel the same way. Is that so? So I'm the one worrying too much then? Guan Xuemin thought about it for a moment. It seemed like he'd been a little too hasty, so he shook his head. Alright, let Auntie Lu make a few dishes. I'll go. Guan Xian stood up, a little embarrassed. It was a bit of a shame that all the dishes on the table were picked up, but it wasn't something a normal person could eat. Lin Yi changed the topic to medicine, and Guan Xuemin quickly forgot about the previous unpleasantness. He excitedly discussed the prescription with Lin. Guan Xuemin had completely forgotten what had happened when Guan Xian brought a few steaming hot dishes to the table. Xian, come pour Grandpa some wine. Guan Xian looked at Lin Yi suspiciously. Was this man really that mysterious? Not only was he skilled, but he also knew medicine? It wasn't easy for a person to receive such high praise from his grandfather. Guan Xian's subsequent dishes were quite ordinary. A plate of scrambled eggs with green onions, a plate of mushrooms, a plate of tofu, a plate of cucumber, and a bowl of sour and spicy egg soup were all served piping hot. 4 ordinary home-cooked dishes and an ordinary soup were cooked to perfection in Guan Xian's hands. Try it again this time? Guan Xian said to Lin Yi, a little embarrassed as she poured wine for her grandfather. Lin Yi nodded and picked up a piece of mushrooms with his chopsticks. He thought to himself, she's actually catching up to my level? How is it? Guan Xian didn't know if Lin Yi's was good or bad. She looked at Lin Yi nervously, waiting for his answer. But for these home-cooked dishes, Guan Xian had given it her all, bringing out the young divine chef's abilities to the extreme. I didn't think home-cooked food could be this good. Lin Yi praised. Old Lin always praised him like this. Then, eat more. Guan Xian was a little happy. She pursed her lips into a smile. Try something else, okay. Lin Yi nodded and put a few more mouthfuls from the other dishes into his mouth. Grandpa Guan, I finally know that what you said before was true. Guan Xian really is the young divine chef. That's right. Guan Xuemin nodded. So, if you want to eat more, you'll have to come here often. No problem. Lin Yi nodded happily. Xuemin had a taste of Guan Xian's new dishes, frowning as he took a bite. Xian, aren't you being biased? I've tried these dishes before, Why aren't they as good as today's? It looks like Lin Yi's treatment is different now that he's here. The poison dishes from before are upgraded to delicious food that even I've never tasted before. Grandpa. Guan Xen was a little embarrassed by Xuemin's words. It looks like you'll have to come more often. This old man will have to enjoy the delicious food with you. Guan Xuemin smiled. I'll definitely come more often. Lin Yi nodded. He was here because of Guan Xuemin's invitation, but also because he wanted to discuss the medical company with Guan Xuemin. If that were to happen, he'd have to come here more often. Guan Xen was a little embarrassed as she looked at Lin. She was a little surprised, but also a little lost. It seemed like she had a chance again. If he came here more often, then their relationship would definitely improve. But was this the right thing to do? After dinner, Guan Xen went to clean up the dishes while Lin Yi and Guan Xuemin went upstairs to Guan Xuemin's study. Lin Yi's expression returned to a serious one as he closed the door. Grandpa Guan, I actually have something important to discuss with you this time. Oh? What is it? Guan Xuemin paused. He didn't think that Lin Yi would have something to discuss with him. He'd originally wanted to discuss the condition of Lu Tianyi's father, Lu Zhenhu, with Lin. Guan Xuemin could barely control Lu Zhenhu's angina, but couldn't cure it. So he wanted to discuss it with Lin Yi and see if there was anything he could come up with. But since Lin Yi had something to discuss, he'd talk about Lin Yi first. Grandpa Guan, I'd like to start a medical company and sell some Chinese medicine. Lin Yi got straight to the point. I'd like to borrow your title as Miracle Dr. Guan. You want to start a medical company? Guan Xuemin paused, but didn't really care about what Lin Yi said. There's a lot of medical companies in the country right now. If I don't have any special medicine, I won't be able to make much of an impact with just my name alone. If Dr. Kong can use Golden Creation to become one of the top medical companies in the country, why can't we? Lin Yi smiled nonchalantly. He has Golden Creation, so we can make rejuvenation pill and blood clotting powder. There are a lot of similar names in Wuxia novels anyways. Oh! Guan Xuemin paused. You have the recipe for Golden Creation? Chapter 302. The problem of funding. Guan Xuemin looked at Lin Yi in shock. The formula for Golden Creation had always been a top secret in the industry. No one knew about it, and while many pharmaceutical companies had paid a high price to hire Eastern physicians to do research on it, no one had been able to find the formula. But Lin Yi had a formula with similar effects? But when he thought about Lin Yi's painkiller formula, Guan Xuemin didn't doubt that Lin Yi was just joking. If he said it existed, then it definitely existed. If he said it worked, then it worked. Guan Xuemin had no doubt about that. If there really is, then with the painkiller prescription in our hands, we'll be able to compete with Miracle Dr. Kong on equal footing with these two products. Guan Xuemin nodded. He wasn't interested in business, but he was very interested in Lin Yi's formula. Grandpa Guan, I'll use my formula to buy shares, and I'll borrow your name to start a pharmaceutical company. Are you interested? Lin Yi spoke his mind. Lin Yi had a general understanding of Guan Xuemin through their few interactions. The man didn't care much for fame and fortune, and had almost no desire for it. Prescriptions, on the other hand, were very important to him. It wasn't that he wanted the formula for himself, but that he wanted to study the properties of the formula. You can use my name for free. Guan Xuemin waved a hand. I don't lack food or clothes, so money is useless to me. But do you know how much money it takes to start a pharmaceutical company? We have to get our hands on the formula, and we can't hire other factories to do it for us. We'll need a production line as well, and we'll need at least 100 million to start the company. 100 million? Lin Yi didn't have any experience in business, so he paused. That's a bit much. Do you have the money, Elder Guan? I'll take a smaller share. 100 million wasn't much to the Lin Yi of the past. Although the old man lied to him and said that a mission was only a few hundred yuan, Lin Yi knew very well that there were many missions worth more than 100 million yuan. However, Lin Yi did not want to haggle with his stingy old man. The old man was the one who had raised him. There was no need for him to haggle with him so clearly. But now Lin Yi was really short of money. He knew that without money, he couldn't do anything. My money, other than enough for my daily expenses, has basically been donated to the medical industry. Xuemin smiled. You know that at my level, I don't need to spend much money. The school basically covers all my daily expenses. Lin Yi was in a bit of a dilemma. It seemed that his thinking was a bit too simple. He thought that he could make money with the formula, but he didn't think about the startup capital. If it was an investment, Lin Yi could pull it in. He could talk to Peng Zhan about the prospects of this industry. He was sure that the guy would be interested, but his company's internal problems weren't solved yet. Lin Yi didn't want to give the formula to a company he had no confidence in. It wasn't that Lin Yi didn't trust Peng Zhan, but the problem was that the company might not even belong to Peng Zhan in the future. Even if it did belong to Peng Zhan, those bastard shareholders of the company were even capable of assassinating Meng Yao. There was no telling if they'd be jealous of the recipe or not. My eldest son does have the money, but I won't use it. Xuemin continued after seeing that Lin Yi wasn't saying anything. He's a bit greedy. We can't let him participate in this. Lin Yi paused. He wasn't expecting Xuemin to say that. Normally, people would think of their children first when there was something good, but Xuemin had rejected the possibility of letting his eldest son participate. He already has enough money to spend. I don't want to hurt him. My youngest son, Xianxia's father, is running a temporary business. He does have some money on hand, but his company isn't very big. I estimate that the total value of the entire business is only 200 to 300 million. He doesn't have that much liquid capital. So, I don't want either of them to participate in this. I'm still healthy, so it's not a big deal. But in the future, Xuemin didn't continue, but he believed that Lin Yi would understand what he was trying to say. Indeed, Lin Yi understood Xuemin's words. Lin Yi was shocked. He knew that Xuemin was a righteous old man who didn't care about fame and fortune, but he didn't think that the guy would be this insightful. He'd removed his 2 family members from the equation as soon as Lin Yi mentioned the idea of a partnership. Grandpa Guan, it's not a problem to give them some shares. Lin Yi said, a little embarrassed. No need. Xuemin shook his head. Don't talk about them. I don't even want the shares. Lin Yi was stunned. How can you do that? How can I borrow your reputation? You brat. Let me finish. Xuemin didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Lin Yi's words. I haven't finished yet. Okay, Grandpa Guan, go ahead. Lin Yi was familiar with Xuemin now, so he wasn't as restrained as before. In fact, the two of them had become good friends since the last time they talked about medical problems. Xian is my favorite granddaughter. If it's possible, you can just give her a small part of the shares. Xuemin said, it doesn't need to be much, just enough for her to live in the future. Of course, that's not a problem. Lin Yi agreed without hesitation. Don't be in a hurry to agree. You still have to think of a way to start your own business. Xuemin said solemnly with a wave of his hand. My name is useful in all the big houses, and I can pull in a lot of investments, but you better not let anyone else have a share in this medicine company. House Kang's Golden Creations profits are enough to make people jealous, but there's nothing we can do about it. They're managing it like a family, and no outsiders are involved. Xuemin continued. As long as Elder Kang is still alive, there won't be any problems. But if someone else were to get involved in your company, I can't guarantee that my name will still be effective in the face of profit. I understand, Grandpa Guan. I'll think of a way to get the funds myself. Lin Yi nodded. Xuemin didn't say anything else. 100 million seemed like a fantasy to an ordinary person, but he knew that Lin Yi wasn't an ordinary person. How could Huaijuan's teammate, someone with such miraculous medical skills, be an ordinary person? Chapter 303. The Young Miracle Doctor, It's Useless. Lin Yi waved his hand, not looking at the patient. Since it's your patient, Grandpa Guan, I'll take a look with you. All right. I'll call him and ask him to come over. Guan Xuemin nodded. Lin Yi was right, seeing the patient wasn't as direct as looking at the patient. Having Lin Yi with Elder Lu was much better than doing research on his own. The patient's nearby? Lin Yi asked, surprised. Yeah, he lives in this district. It's only a few minutes' drive, it'll be quick. With that, Guan Shuemin picked up the phone on his desk and dialed a number. In the family compound of Songshan Medical University was a luxurious villa that was comparable to Guan Shuemin's mansion. A young man in his 20s was talking angrily to a middle-aged woman. "Auntie, isn't Sun Jingyi looking down on House Wu a little too much by doing this? We're a Wulin house, after all, and we're one of the 4 great guardian houses. What's House Sun? They're just a new house, and I'm already giving them a lot of face by asking for their hand in marriage. But that old man's son doesn't know what's good for him, saying that he doesn't want to get involved in young people's affairs, telling me to work hard on my own." The speaker was Wu Chuntian, the most promising young man in House Wu's younger generation. He was known as Little Wu Iron Fist. House Sun's business has been expanding really fast these past few years, and they have some connections in the political world. They're a new house, yes, but they have the right to stand shoulder to shoulder with the other old houses. Lu Tianyi said, glaring at his nephew. "But Sun Jingyi and I are childhood friends, and she's gone too far. She found a boyfriend in private and made me look like a fool." Chen Tian said resentfully. "I wouldn't have lost my wallet if it wasn't for her. People look down on me." All right, Tan, I'll help you." Wu Huiru opened her mouth. "Since your uncle's father will be staying here to recuperate for a while, I'll help you set up a company. Let's show that girl from the Sun family the talents of the Wu family's men." "Thank you, Auntie." Chen Tian was overjoyed. He didn't know what to do in this unfamiliar city, but with his aunt's help, he'd be able to make a name for himself and show Sun Jingyi how good he was. Ring. The phone in the living room rang. "It's so late, who's calling?" Tianyi Huiru? What if it disturbs Dad's rest?" Wu Huiru complained when she heard the phone ringing. What if something happens?" Tianyi glared at Huiru. This landline phone was in the previous villa. He must have called the previous owner by mistake. Wu Huiru curled her lips. "Who doesn't call this phone when they know us?" "That's right, Uncle. And he's right. Don't worry about him." Chen Tian was in the middle of a happy conversation with his aunt, preparing to think about how to capture Sun Jingyi's heart after setting up the company, when the phone interrupted them. Lu Tianyi frowned, ignoring his wife and nephew. "Hello, I'm Lu Tianyi." "Tianyi? I'm Guan Shuemin. Bring your father over. I've invited a specialist, and we're going to see if there's any possibility of a cure." Shuemin's voice came from the other side of the phone. All right. Elder Guan, I'll bring my father over right now." "Thank you." Lu Tianyi nodded profusely at the words. Lu Tianyi was very grateful that Shuemin was putting so much effort into his father's situation. After all, House Lu was one of the most powerful houses in the city, but that was only because old Lu Zhenhu was still alive. Many people gave them face, but once old Lu passed away, House Lu would definitely fall. Tianyi glared at his wife after hanging up. "You almost ruined our big plan, you know. Elder Guan's invited a specialist, and he's going to treat Dad. Would you be able to take responsibility if you didn't get the call? I'll go help Dad down right now." Huiru didn't dare say anything else. She lowered her head and went upstairs. Lu Tianyi had become more and more manly these days, and Huiru didn't dare make a fuss anymore. Instead, she became more obedient. "Be careful," Lu Tianyi warned. "Chenyun, go with me to help your grandpa Lu down." Huiru gave Chen Tian a look. Old Lu was a big shot, and if he fell in love with Chen Tian and spoke up for Chen Tian at House Sun, old Sun wouldn't just give him face. Chen Tian understood and followed his aunt upstairs. 10 minutes later, old Lu Zhenhu came down with the help of Huiru and Chen Tian. Lu Tianyi had already parked the car in front of the villa, waiting for them to get in before driving straight to Shuemin's villa. Zhenhu was no longer sleepy after hearing that a specialist was coming to treat him. His heart was filled with hope. Even an old man in his 70s would want to live a few more years. It wasn't that Zhenhu was afraid of death, but that he couldn't let go of the Lius. Auntie Lu opened the door for them and invited the Lius into the villa. Shuemin and Lin Yi were waiting on the sofa in the living room, but Lin Yi paused when he saw Zhenhu and Lu Tianyi. He didn't expect the patient Shuemin was talking about to be Zhenhu. Lu Tianyi's family also saw Lin Yi on the sofa. They paused as well, but Zhenhu and Lu Tianyi's faces lit up with excitement. Xuemin had found this miracle doctor. Did that mean that his father's illness could be cured? But Qintian's face was very ugly. He didn't expect to see Lin Yi here, nor did he expect Lin Yi to be sitting with miracle Dr. Guan, who was treating Grandpa Lu. He wanted to say something but held it in. This wasn't House Wu or House Lu, after all, and it wasn't his place to speak. He could only look at Lin Yi with hatred. Miracle Doctor. I didn't expect to see you here, it's great. Lu Tianyi was a little excited as he walked up to shake Lin Yi's hand. Lu Tianyi regretted it when he heard Xuemin praise Lin Yi so much. He was in too much of a rush that day, and he didn't leave his contact number with Lu Tianyi. Chapter 304. This kid is a little annoying. Lu Tianyi felt a little awkward. Who was he? Many people tried to get on his good side, and he'd taken the initiative to shake hands with Lin Yi. Now that he was being ignored, he felt a little embarrassed. But if Lin Yi really was as miraculous as Guan Xuemin said, then it was normal for a miracle doctor to put on airs. He was someone many people wanted to get on his good side after all. It was normal that he didn't like him. Uncle, don't get tricked by him. I know this kid, he's not a miracle doctor. Qintian was getting angry at his uncle's respect for Lin. He's Sun Jingyi's boyfriend. A liar. Qintian found it hard to connect the title of miracle doctor with Lin. The kid didn't look like a miracle doctor at all, and he'd asked Sun Jingyi about what Lin Yi did for a living. Sun Jingyi tried her best to cover it up, but Qintian still got the gist of it. The kid didn't have a proper job and was unemployed. Otherwise, with Sun Jingyi's personality, there was no way she wouldn't brag about her boyfriend's good points. If Lin Yi really was a miracle doctor, Sun Jingyi would have used this to attack him already. Why would she hide it? This was why Qintian dared to make things difficult for Lin Yi. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi was no miracle doctor. These people must have been tricked by Lin Yi. Lu Tianyi, Huiru, and Guan Xuemin all looked at Lin Yi, surprised. Fine, I'm a liar. What no one expected was for Lin Yi to admit it. Since there are people who don't want to see me, then I'll take my leave. Grandpa Guan, I'll come visit again. With that, Lin Yi stood up and prepared to leave. What a joke, Lin Yi didn't owe the Lius anything. He only treated Elder Lu because of Guan Xuemin, and since they called him a liar, Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to explain himself. I'm too lazy to treat you if you call me a liar. Go look wherever you want, we'll meet again. Haze. Guan Xuemin sighed. He wasn't angry at Lin Yi's actions, but he didn't like Qintian's behavior. He didn't know what relationship this kid had with Lu Tianyi. Why did he bring him here to embarrass himself? Great, now that you've pissed him off, he won't treat your old man anymore. What are you going to do now? In terms of age, Qintian was a few years older than Lin Yi, but in Xuemin's eyes, Qintian was just a kid. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was his old friend, his teacher. Lin Yi walked towards the entrance of the villa without any hesitation. Guan Xuemin didn't stop him. Lu Tianyi was stunned for a moment, but then he panicked. They had finally found Lin Yi. How could they let him go just like that? Lu Tianyi couldn't care less about his identity. He stepped forward and grabbed Lin Yi. Little magic doctor, please wait. Why should I stay? Lin Yi pursed his lips. What if someone calls me a liar? Pa! Lu Tianyi slapped Huiru's face. He may be Qintian's uncle, but Qintian was still a member of House Wu, and a rising star of the younger generation at that. He couldn't discipline him directly, so he vented his anger on his wife, who was also a Wu. It was natural for a man to discipline his wife. Even if the Wu family knew about it, they wouldn't say anything. After Wu Huiru married into the Lu family, she would be a member of the Lu family. Look at your nephew, what did you do? What did you do? Tianyi roared, frustrated. You're the perfect example of a loving aunt ruining her nephew. Huiru was stunned by Tianyi's sudden slap, but she realized that she shouldn't have brought Qintian with her when she regained her composure. She'd pissed off the little miracle doctor, and if the brothers of House Lu found out about it, they'd all divorce her as their sister-in-law. But Huiru slapped Qintian's face. What nonsense are you talking about? If you keep this up, I'll call my brother and tell you to go home. Qintian didn't dare say anything after being slapped by his aunt. There were many rules in a big family, and it was natural for the elders to discipline the younger ones. Chen Tian lowered his head and focused all his hatred on Lin. As far as he was concerned, all of this was because of Lin Yi. Little magic doctor, you see? Lu Tianyi had already made his stance as he looked at Lin Yi with pleading eyes. Yes, pleading. Curing his father's illness was his biggest wish. Oh, this kid's a bit annoying. I don't want to see him anymore. Lin Yi glanced at Chen Tian. Huiru, why aren't you taking Chen Tian out? Lu Tianyi glared at Huiru. Why was she so insensible? You can see that the little magic doctor hates your nephew. Why don't you make him disappear from the doctor's sight? Oh, okay. Huiru pushed Chen Tian. Then let's go out first. Chen Tian humphed, unsatisfied. He looked at Lin Yi viciously and mouthed, just you wait, before leaving the villa with Huiru. Lin didn't even look at Chen Tian. Who cared what he said? There were many people who wanted to humiliate him, but none of them got what they wanted. Of course, that was unless his old man could torture him to the point where he couldn't do anything about it. Little divine doctor, that disappointing kid has already been driven out by me. Can you treat my father now? Lu Tianyi asked carefully as he looked at Lin. Did I say I'm going to treat your father? Lin Yi looked at Lu Tianyi. Was there something wrong with this guy's head? When did he say he was going to treat his father? That's... Tianyi's face froze as he groaned inwardly. Indeed, Lin Yi never promised to treat his father. He only said he hated Chen Tian. Little magic doctor, can you please take a look at my father? Previously, if my nephew had offended you, I apologize on his behalf. It wasn't easy to make Lu Tianyi humble himself like this. But he really did put all his hopes on Lin. After seeing Lin Yi's miraculous skills with his own eyes, plus Xu Emin's respect for Lin Yi, Lu Tianyi didn't doubt that Lin Yi was the real deal. If it were anyone else, even a miracle doctor, Lu Tianyi wouldn't act like this. But Lu Tianyi didn't dare underestimate this young man who was called a specialist by Guan Xuemin and Miracle Dr. Guan. Especially with Lin Yi's temper. It was normal for powerful people to have a temper, and Lu Tianyi understood that. He was sure that Lin Yi was a master. Chapter 305. A rip-off. The crowd went into an uproar at Lin Yi's words. Even Guan Xuemin was staring at Lin Yi in shock. Elder Lu could live for another 8 to 10 years if he could keep his condition under control, but that was under the condition that the angina wouldn't act up again. An old man at Jinhu's age would be at the end of his rope after another 8 to 10 years. Even Hua Tuo himself wouldn't be able to change his fate. And this, how could it be said that even if he was cured, it would all be for naught? Sickness and death were part and parcel of human nature. It was normal for descendants to die 8 to 10 years later. Ha! Young man, you're right. In another 8 to 10 years, I'll be buried. That's only natural. However, if you can let this old man not be tormented by illness in these few years, this old man will be eternally grateful. Jinhu was no longer afraid of death at his age, and Lin Yi wasn't wrong. Most importantly, Jinhu knew very well that this daughter-in-law of his had offended Lin Yi from the start, and her nephew had offended Lin Yi as well. Would he still be able to treat him? Treat? For your sake, I'll reluctantly do it, but there'll be a fee. The only person Lin Yi had a good impression of was Elder Lu. No matter what, the old man knew how to repay kindness. He'd even invited Lin Yi to Yanjing a while back, so Lin Yi had a good impression of him. Still, Lin Yi wasn't in a good mood if he agreed to treat just like that, so he came up with a compromise. A fee? Not a problem. Lu Tianyi nodded quickly after hearing Lin Yi's terms. It was only right and proper to pay for treatment, so Lu Tianyi had no objections. Excuse me, young miracle doctor. How much does it cost? 10 million a year. Lin Yi said. It takes a year to cure? But 10 million? All right, no problem. Lu Tianyi hesitated for a moment, but he still nodded. Although 10 million was not a small number, it was nothing compared to his father's health. Are you sick? Lin Yi frowned after listening to Lu Tianyi's words. I said 10 million a year, not a total of 10 million. Ah! Lu Tianyi was stunned, and his heart was burning with anger. He also guessed that Lin Yi might be taking advantage of his misfortune, but there was nothing he could do. He had directly offended Lin Yi, and it was almost impossible to make Lin Yi relent. He didn't dare to show his dissatisfaction, because if he did, Lin Yi might not treat him even if he offered money. Then, how much does it cost? Didn't I just say it? He can still live for 8 to 10 years. Don't you know how to calculate it yourself? Lin Yi looked at Lu Tianyi with disdain. Then, isn't that 80 million? Lu Tianyi was shocked. This was really a large number. 80 million? Lin Yi couldn't help but be amused. Well, if you want your old man to suddenly get sick after 8 years, then 80 million. Anyway, if he doesn't die after 8 years, he will definitely die when the disease breaks out. Lu Tianyi couldn't help but smile bitterly after listening to Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi seems to want 100 million from me. If it's 100 million, then it's better to say it clearly. It seems that I am reluctant to spend money on my father. He can't guarantee that his father can only live for 8 years. According to what Lin Yi said, 80 million is only for 8 years. If he suddenly dies after 8 years, then he is not a filial son. Guan Shuemin also understood at this moment, and his expression was a little strange. He just told Lin Yi that there is no startup capital, and now the startup capital is here? Lin Yi really extorted a lot of money. Although Guan Shuemin knew that Lin Yi was just using this as a pretext to make a fuss, who asked the Lu family to offend Lin Yi, Guan Shuemin didn't say anything. In this situation, it was not appropriate for him to interrupt. Elder Guan, you see, Lu Tianyi was a little helpless. If it was 10 million, he could take it out immediately, but if it was 100 million, he also had to plan. Isn't it a little too much? Therefore, he wanted Guan Shuemin to help him. Mr. Lu, you really overestimate me, Guan Shuemin shook his head. My relationship with Lin Yi can only be regarded as a teacher and a friend. I can't interfere with him or anything. A teacher and a friend? That's half a teacher, if you ask. Tianyi paused a little helplessly. I'll be honest with you, House Lu is a big house, but it'd be hard for us to take out 100 million in cash. What would you ask your teacher to do? Guan Shuemin smiled bitterly. Lu Tianyi was stunned, not understanding what Guan Shuemin was saying. Lil Yi is half a teacher to me. Guan Shuemin didn't feel embarrassed at all. Shuemin didn't feel embarrassed at all. He was a man of honor, and he respected Lin Yi's medical skills. He wouldn't hide anything just because he was afraid of losing face. What? Lu Tianyi was shocked, and looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. Guan Shuemin actually said that Lin Yi is his teacher? How is that possible? However, Lu Tianyi was a person who had seen the world, and he immediately understood. Yes, even Guan Shuemin couldn't do anything about his father's illness, so how could his student do anything? The only possibility was that Lin Yi was better than Guan Shuemin. That's all I have to say. Guan Shuemin waved his hand. I've already introduced Lil Yi to you, and it's up to you whether you want to treat him or not. But don't worry, even if you don't take out the 100 million, I will still do my best. If possible, I will ask Lil Yi for help. 100 million? No problem. Having figured out the relationship between Lin Yi and Guan Shuemin, Lu Tianyi agreed without hesitation. Although it was difficult for the Lu family to take out 100 million in cash, they could sell off some of their stocks and real estate to get the amount. As the core figure of the Lu family, his father, couldn't be harmed. As long as his father was healthy and alive, the Lu family had hope. All right, call me when you have the money ready. Lin Yi nodded and got straight to the point. You can find me if you want to talk to Grandpa Guan. I'll be going now, it's getting late. All right, Miracle Dr. Lin, do you need me to send you off? Lu Tianyi had already thrown caution to the wind. It was only 100 million, right? Compared to his father's health, it really wasn't much. House Lu was different from other rising houses, and the reason why they were doing so well was because of Lu Zhenhu's connections and reputation. Lu Tianyi wanted to send Lin Yi off because he wanted to know where Lin Yi lived. He wasn't worried about the 100 million anymore, he was worried that Lin Yi would go back on his word. Chapter 306. Parting on bad terms, Ori. Shuemin nodded. Be careful on the road. You've been drinking, so if you're driving, I've been awake for a while now. Do I look drunk to you, Grandpa Guan? Lin smiled. Drinking? Lin Yi rarely got drunk. Ever since he started practicing the art of dragon mastery, Lin Yi's tolerance for alcohol had increased as well. The old man at home often dragged Lin Yi to drink with him, but it was always old Lin who was completely drunk after the drinks, while Lin Yi was completely fine. Old Lin was quite annoyed by this. Drinking with someone who couldn't get drunk wasn't fun at all. In the end, old Lin stopped allowing Lin Yi to drink, telling him to drink plain water instead. The reason was simple. He thought Lin Yi was wasting alcohol, and since drinking was the same as drinking water, he might as well drink water instead. Xuemi nodded. Lin didn't look drunk at all. What he'd done to House Lu just now was enough to make them lose their temper. After Lin Yi left, Lu Tianyi let out a long sigh and smiled bitterly at Xuan. Elder Guan, I'm sorry for all the trouble I've caused. After all, Lu Tianyi had come to Xu Emin for treatment. Now that he'd switched to Lin Yi, it was a little disrespectful. While Lin Yi had been introduced by Xu Emin, Lu Tianyi still had to explain himself. He'd been too polite to Lin Yi earlier, and he was worried that Xu Emin might have some ulterior motives. Lin Yi was a miracle doctor, but so was Xu Emin. Lu Tianyi didn't want to offend him. Xu Emin waved his hand. I don't have the ability, but I hope my patient can get better. Did you guys know Lin Yi before? He's the one who saved my father's life I told you about last time. Lu Tianyi explained, so, this is why I believe that he can cure my father's illness. Alright, Heaven Wings. Jinhu spoke up at this time. When you raise money, give Professor Guan an extra 2 million. Okay, Dad. Lu Tianyi quickly nodded. Forget about my consultation fee. I didn't cure your illness. Guan Xuemin waved his hand and was about to refuse. No matter what, you've helped me for so many days. You should give me the money, Jinhu said. In his eyes, Xuemin's referral fee was acceptable. Alright then, I'll accept it. Xuemin thought about it. He'd just gotten 100 million from Lin Yi, but he'd opened a company and might need more money. 2 million was good enough, and so he accepted the money. After a few more words, Lu Tianyi stood up and left. It was getting late, and Xuemin seemed to have drunk quite a bit. He didn't want to disturb his rest. On the way back, Huir heard that Lin Yi had asked for 100 million. She was shocked. House Wu was a powerful house, but they were still one of those hidden houses that specialized in ancient martial arts. They didn't have many industries, and 100 million was enough to last them for a few years. Uncle, that Lin Yi is a liar. He's Sun Jingyi's boyfriend. How could he be a miracle doctor? Don't let him trick you. Chen Tian was pissed off at Lin Yi's demand. If he let Lin Yi get 100 million, how was he going to compete with Lin Yi? Sun Jingyi wouldn't even look at him in the eye when the time came, and the funny thing was that this was all caused by his uncle's family. Wu Chen Tian, what are you talking about? What do you know? Shut up. Lu Tianyi was angry at his nephew for being so immature. Don't you think you've caused enough trouble? You've already offended Miracle Dr. Lin. Do you want to kill your grandpa Lu? Uncle, I'm doing this for your own good. If you don't want to listen, then forget it. I won't bother you anymore. Chen Tian's stubborn young master's temper flared up. He was the most promising of the younger generation in House Wu, the one who had the highest chance of reaching mystic in Iron Fist arts, so he was respected everywhere in the house. He had never been humiliated like this before. Don't be rash. Apologize to your uncle. Huira was panicking and quickly pulled Chen Tian's hand. Apologize? Chen Tian smiled coldly. Aunt, since uncle looks down on House Wu, then forget it. Do you want to come back with me, or stay here? Stop it. Huira didn't expect Chen Tian to be this angry. Alright, Aunt, since you're already a part of House Lu, I won't force you. Chen Tian's eyes flashed with determination. Stop the car, I'm getting off. Lu Tianyi, naturally, wouldn't let Chen Tian do as he pleased. He stopped the car by the roadside and smiled coldly. Since this Wu kid didn't know what was good for him, then he shouldn't blame him for being ruthless. Other things were fine, but his father's illness was involved. He wouldn't be nice to Chen Tian. House Wu, even if he was from House Wu, he was just a junior. How dare he be so arrogant in front of him? Lu Tianyi was furious. Huir, you're going back with him? I won't be messing around with Tian anymore. Huiru sighed helplessly. She knew that from today onwards, there would be a rift between House Wu and House Lu. But now that she was a daughter-in-law of House Lu, she had to stand on House Lu's side. This was the foundation of being a wife. She'd be laughed at if she messed around with House Wu. She wanted to mediate, but she didn't know how. It was normal for Chen Tian to be angry, but Lin Yi was Sun Jingyi's boyfriend. That alone was enough for Chen Tian to not be nice to him. But Lin Yi was someone who could save his father-in-law, and this wasn't going to be easy to mediate. Huir, go and send him off. He's your nephew after all. Zhenhu, who hadn't spoken until now, spoke up. He didn't want to say anything about House Wu's business. As the head of House Lu, he couldn't interfere with House Wu's business. What happened to House Wu's nephew would be handled by House Wu, and it wasn't up to others to say anything. Instead, Huir nodded and sent Chen Tian off the car. She whispered after 2 steps, Tian, don't do anything rash. That Lin Yi's really good at medicine. Aunt, you're helping him too? Chen Tian humphed unhappily. If you want to deal with him, at least wait until he heals my father-in-law's illness. To be honest, I'm really pissed off that he's asking for so much. If you can get that 100 million back for me, I'm sure Uncle would be happy to see it too. Huiru said softly. Chapter 307. Peng Zhan's dilemma. Huiru, on the other hand, was a very selfish woman. As far as she was concerned, letting a little-known doctor like Lin Yi treat her illness was already giving him a lot of face. If he were to really be cured, wouldn't there be countless rich people coming to him for treatment once he was promoted to the upper class? How much money would he have then? Asking for 100 million right now was practically extortion. Since when had House Lu ever been taken advantage of like this? Even if he was a miracle doctor, a few million would be the most he'd get. Fine then. Since you dare ask for it, you'd have to be able to keep it first. Of course, Tianyi would have exploded if he'd known how selfish and short-sighted his wife was. 100 million wasn't a small amount, but it was worth it to gain the friendship of a miracle doctor just like that. It was worth it. Wouldn't there be a day when you'd get old and sick? Would you still be begging Lin Yi then? What a wastrel with water in her head. But evidently, Lu Tianyi didn't know that yet, and it was too late for him to stop Chen Tian from going against Lin. Peng Zhan was very pissed today. Gubang was calling for a board meeting to elect a new chairman. Peng Zhan's heart turned cold at the thought of Gubang and Guanghua's relationship yesterday. It was the first time he'd felt so powerless. He couldn't control the situation anymore. Peng Zhan was still full of confidence before the board meeting yesterday, confident that he'd be able to get rid of the parasite in the company, slowly weakening Gubang's power and eventually kicking him out of the company. But now, things weren't what he'd expected. The second and third largest shareholders of the company had formed an alliance, and their shares had already exceeded his. He wouldn't be able to handle them if they were to make things difficult for him in the board meeting. Since when had the company become like this? The company his father founded was in his hands, and he was going to hand it over to someone else? Peng Zhan hadn't told his father about the company all this time. He didn't want the company to disturb him now that his father had retired. Besides, the company wasn't a big deal to Peng Zhan. As long as he held onto the shares, he was confident that he'd be able to deal with some of the shareholders who were a little greedy and selfish. But Peng Zhan hadn't expected the shareholders to unite. He was at his wits' end. Gubang had already gone to contact the other board members with Guanghua, and there was no chance of reconciliation at all. Perhaps he wouldn't be the chairman of the company anymore in a few days. Left with no other choice, Peng Zhan dialed up his father's number. He didn't want to disturb his father, but he had no choice but to tell Elder Chu about the company's situation at this critical juncture. Elder Chu listened to Peng Zhan's words quietly, not interrupting him. He waited for him to finish, remaining silent for a while. Dad, look. Peng Zhan felt exhausted. A third of the board had been roped in by Gubang, and even he, the chairman, couldn't stop this. Since Gubang was calling for this meeting, it meant that he had the confidence to replace him as the chairman. Actually, I have long seen the problem with the company's board of directors. Elder Chu's voice was calm. Peng Zhan, you're too kind and kind-hearted. That's a good point, but you have to understand that the business world is like a battlefield. Being kind to your enemy is being cruel to yourself. Everyone has greed and selfishness, and it's only natural that the board of directors would ally together to usurp power. Then you mean? Peng Zhan paused. His father didn't seem to want to get involved in this anymore. Go find Lin. Elder Chu sighed softly. Perhaps he's the only one who can help you in this situation. Him. Pengzhan was surprised. Dad, you're asking him to come, don't you mean for him and Yao Yao? Haha, he might have a way. Elder Chu didn't say it out loud, only smiling. I understand, Dad. Pengzhan hung up the phone. He didn't know why his father wanted him to go find Lin Yi, but he couldn't understand what Lin Yi could do in a situation like this. Lin Yi wasn't a shareholder of the company, and he didn't have any shares in his hands. Lin Yi wouldn't be able to interfere with the company's board of directors meeting, but since Elder Chu had asked him to look for Lin Yi, Pengzhan could only give it a try. Pengzhan really didn't expect that a business tycoon like him would fall into the trap of his father's old friend's son. Had he really been too kind? Perhaps his father was right. If he'd acted decisively when he'd first discovered the problem, perhaps this wouldn't have happened today. Some of the shareholders would have criticized him for not caring about his father's feelings, but it was still better than being at his wit's end. After some hesitation, Pengzhan turned to Li Fu. Go to Yao Yao's villa. Yes, Mr. Chu. Faubert sighed. Mr. Chu, don't be too hasty. If Elder Chu said that Lin Yi has a way, then he should have a way. I hope so. Pengzhan nodded. Lin Yi parked the car in front of Meng Yao's villa and saw a Bentley turn in behind him. It was Faubert's car. Lin Yi got out of the car, but didn't enter the villa. He waited for Faubert's car to park, and Pengzhan got out of the car. Pengzhan didn't expect Lin Yi to just come back. He looked at the van Lin Yi drove, surprised. Your car? Oh, I helped Lingshan catch a fugitive, that Heibao. Lin Yi didn't hide the truth. It's Heibao's. I got the license plate from Lingshan this afternoon. Pengzhan nodded. He didn't expect Lin Yi to have built up his own network in Songshan without anyone noticing. The fact that he was able to get the car from Lingshan meant that the two had a close relationship. Uncle Chu has something to discuss with you, Pengzhan said with a pat on Lin Yi's shoulder. He didn't want to waste time on the car. Oh, all right, let's talk inside? Lin Yi said as he locked the door. Pengzhan hesitated. Why don't you get in my car? Lin Yi paused but understood immediately. He nodded. Okay. Chapter 308. Leave it to Melon Yi followed Pengzhan into the Bentley, who lit up a cigarette and handed one to Lin. Lin Yi waved his hand. I'm not addicted, I don't like smoking. Pengzhan didn't mind as he passed it to Faubert casually. Uncle Chu's in some trouble. Pengzhan didn't know why his old man wanted him to go look for Lin Yi, but he couldn't understand why Lin Yi would care about company matters other than protecting Meng Yao. Lin Yi didn't have any experience in this, did he? It's about the company, isn't it? Lin Yi didn't wait for Pengzhan to finish, guessing that the only thing Pengzhan was worried about right now was the company's business. Yes, it's about the company. Pengzhan nodded, not hiding anything. He wasn't going to hide anything since he was looking for help. The second and third largest shareholders of the company have teamed up, and all the board members who are on good terms with them are on their side. They're planning to hold a board meeting to elect a new chairman. Pengzhan nodded, not hiding anything. Lin Yi waved his hand. Uncle Chu, you don't have to go into the details. I don't know much about company operations, but there's one thing I want to know right now. Will these two be a threat to your position in the company? Yes, they've been in the company for years, and they have a certain amount of connections. Some of the board members are on good terms with them, and I'd lose for sure if they teamed up. Pengzhan said. Lin Yi nodded, furrowing his eyebrows as he fell into deep thought. Pengzhan didn't disturb Lin Yi, since he'd never come into contact with company matters before. He'd need some time to digest what he'd just heard. Unexpectedly, Lin Yi asked a strange question all of a sudden. The second and third largest shareholders you mentioned, what's their relationship like before? Before? Pengzhan paused, a little angry. From what I've seen before, their relationship wasn't that good. You know that the three major shareholders of the company, myself included, have a certain amount of power in the board of directors. There's no such thing as someone fawning over someone else, so from what I've seen, their relationship has always been tense. But I don't know why, but at the board meeting on Sunday, the two of them actually teamed up. This is what caught me off guard. It turns out that the two of them have been colluding with each other. Heh. Linny laughed. Uncle Chu, you're too involved. The person involved can't see clearly? Peng Zhan paused. Maybe they didn't collude with each other long ago, but only temporarily? Lin Yi shrugged and continued, of course, this is just my guess. There's definitely something fishy going on. I think there's definitely a secret that no one knows about. Peng Zhan nodded. You're right, but it doesn't matter when they started working together. What's more important is how do I deal with them working together? Huh? Why deal with them? Lin smiled. Uncle Chu, haven't you thought about splitting them up, making them fight amongst themselves, or even inciting them to betray you? Lin Yi hadn't run a company before, but the most common way to deal with his enemies was to divide and destroy them, or to incite internal strife and let them kill each other first. Of course, instigating defection was also a good way. Peng Zhan paused. He'd been thinking about how to deal with Jin Gubang and Xie Guanghua's team. He'd never thought about splitting them up, inciting them to betray him, or inciting them to fight amongst themselves. Tell me about these two shareholders. Who's the leader? Lin Yi asked. Jin Gubang and Xie Guanghua are the two major shareholders. Jin Gubang's the one I've been trying to deal with. He's the reason why Yao Yao was attacked a couple of times. I was actually planning on using the theme park incident to cause trouble for Jin Gubang during the board meeting on Sunday, but Xie Guanghua jumped out of nowhere. With that, Peng Zhan explained the situation to Lin. Old Xie doesn't speak or speak much, nor does he fight for power. Who knew that he'd be working with Jin Gubang this time? Peng Zhan's introduction, Lin Yi had a better understanding of the two shareholders of the company. This Jin Gubang was the leader this time, and getting him to defect was basically impossible. This Xie Guanghua that Peng Zhan was talking about was the key to solving this problem. Just as Peng Zhan had said, Xie Guanghua's behavior was completely different from his usual self on Sunday. There had to be something fishy going on, so Lin Yi decided to start with this person. Alright, if that's the case, leave this to me, Uncle Chu. I'll take care of it. Lin Yi nodded. Where does Xie Guanghua live? Xie Guanghua? You're not planning on killing people and robbing them, are you? Peng Zhan paused as he looked at Lin Yi worriedly. Don't worry, I won't kill Xie Guanghua. Lin Yi gave Peng Zhan a reassuring smile. Killing him is the only way to solve the problem once and for all, but according to what you said earlier, I'd rather kill Jin Gubang than Xie Guanghua. Since I've set my sights on Xie Guanghua, I can't do something like that. Naturally, it wasn't that Lin Yi hadn't thought of killing Jin Gubang, but he didn't want to bring unnecessary trouble to Peng Zhan. Jin Gubang, no matter what, he was still the second largest shareholder of Peng Zhan Industries. The death of a small fry wouldn't be a big deal, but the death of a shareholder would definitely attract attention. Lin Yi still wanted to live a peaceful life in Songshan, so he didn't want to cause any trouble for now. That's good. Peng Zhan nodded. Xie Guanghua's house is in the Qianhua waterfront district, in the private villa area F. The 6th villa is his house. I understand, leave it to me. Lin said. I'll go talk to him now. Be careful. Peng Zhan didn't know if he was doing the right thing by asking Lin Yi for help, but since the old man had said so, Peng Zhan had to give it a try. Xie Guanghua isn't a normal person either. He has a bodyguard of his own, a master. Also? Lin Yi narrowed his eyes as he looked at Faubert involuntarily. Lin Yi had mentioned a golden class master before, and Faubert's expression had been a little different back then. Could it be that his suspicions were correct? That Faubert was a master amongst masters. Chapter 309. Chapter 309. How did you get in? Lin Yi thought that it was quite possible. If Faubert really was Peng Zhan's bodyguard, then he had to be a physical practitioner, just like Wu Chentian. While he was a practitioner, he didn't have any qi in his body because he trained in physical arts. Lin Yi wouldn't be able to sense the qi in his body, nor would he be able to tell what level he was at. As a result, Faubert was a little mysterious in Lin Yi's eyes. Being able to stay by Peng Zhan's side for so many years meant that a kid like Wu Chentian couldn't be compared to Faubert. Just how strong was he? Lin Yi didn't think that Faubert wasn't only responsible for Peng Zhan's safety, but he also had to take care of Meng Yao and Yushu's safety when they went to school. Lin Yi didn't know if anyone had tried to harm Meng Yao or not, but judging from the fact that Meng Yao and Yushu were still alive, Faubert had to be pretty strong. Li Fu seemed to have sensed Lin Yi's gaze on his back. After a moment of silence, he spoke up. "You're right, I'm Mr. Chu's guard. There's a master beside Mr. Xie who's no weaker than me, but I'm a physical practitioner now, and he's a spiritual practitioner." But Lin Yi's interest was piqued by Faubert's words. What did this now mean? He used to practice the inner chi method? But why didn't he feel anything at all? "I'll be careful." Lin Yi didn't really mind. The master? He was a master himself. With that, Lin Yi got out of the car and prepared to drive his van to Guangbo. There was no reason for Lin Yi to wait now that he knew what the problem was. "Wait, Yi, your van isn't going to be discovered, is it?" Peng Zhan asked as he looked at Lin Yi's van. "Uncle Chu, what do you think I'm going to do?" Lin Yi used the key to open the car door and prepared to get in. "I'm going to talk to Xie Guangbo face to face. I'm not afraid of him recognizing me." "I see." Peng Zhan nodded. "Why don't you drive Yao Yao's car? The people living in that district are all rich. Your car might be stopped at the entrance of the district." "Okay, then I will drive Little Shu's beetle. Since I have the key, I don't need to bother Yao Yao anymore." Lin Yi nodded, locked his broken van and went to the garage to get the car. Qianhua Waterfront District was one of the most luxurious districts in Songshan. This place was known as the symbol of Songshan's nobility. Every household here had a duplex layout, and there were even independent villas. Basically, every household had a starting price of 10 million, and a villa could be sold for more than 30 million. The people who could live here were either wealthy or respectable. And this Lead River Shore was known as Songshan's wealthy district. Although not all rich people lived here, those who lived here were definitely rich people. Peng Zhan didn't buy a house here because his current place was even more luxurious than this. As the third largest shareholder of Peng Zhan Industries, one of the top 500 companies in the country, it wasn't surprising that Guangbo had a villa here. Besides, this Lead River Shore project was developed by Peng Zhan Industries. The management of Lead River Shore was very strict. Cars from outside were stopped at the entrance of the district. Only cars with a high enough grade would be let through, or cars with the district pass would be let through after it was confirmed that they were residents of the district. Lin Yi's beetle wasn't too expensive, but people who could afford it usually didn't have the first car in their family. Lin Yi's beetle was easily let through by the security guards. He didn't ask around for directions either, and drove around the area until he found Area F. It was actually quite easy to find the area, with all the bungalows and villas in the area. Lin Yi parked the car in front of the 6th villa and got out of the car. However, Lin didn't press the doorbell. Instead, he stepped on the transformer box beside the villa and jumped up to the balcony on the 2nd floor. Although Guangbo lived in a luxurious villa, he wasn't a person who liked luxury. He lived here because of his identity as a shareholder. Sometimes he couldn't afford to lose face. If he lived in a shabby place, his business partners would be worried about his capabilities. Guangbo didn't remarry after losing his wife in his middle age. He didn't have much desire for material things, and he wasn't interested in women either. So after his wife passed away, he didn't bring any random women back to live with him. Guangbo's biggest wish was that his son could take over his career and make a name for himself. However, he didn't expect that his son would get addicted to gambling and drugs. He sent his son overseas to study with good intentions so that he could come back and help him. Gambling wasn't a big deal. A little gambling was fun, and Guangbo would occasionally play a few rounds with his old friends. But drugs? That was a bottomless pit. No matter how much money one had, it would be sucked into it. This time, his son actually owed a foreign mafia 100 million. Although Guangbo was furious, he only had one son, and he couldn't just ignore it. Guangbo had just ended the call with his son. Seeing his son beaten up badly, Guangbo's heart ached. He wanted to rush to his son's side and save him. "Guangbo!" A voice sounded in front of Xie Guangbo. Xie Guangbo was startled. He subconsciously raised his head and saw a shocking scene. "Oh, for you." Guangbo looked like he saw a ghost as he looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. He had ended the call with his son and was in a daze for a while. Then, there was another person in the room. The reason why Guangbo was surprised wasn't that Lin Yi had snuck into his room without a sound, but that Lin Yi had gotten in. When he was on the phone with his son, Guangbo purposely locked the door from the inside to prevent the housekeeper and bodyguards from hearing what he said. The room key was in his hands, so how did this person get in? More importantly, how did he get in? There were nannies and bodyguards downstairs, and it was impossible for him to enter without alerting them. If it was a normal visit, the nannies would have notified him, and if it was an abnormal intrusion, the bodyguards would have stopped him. But this person came in and stood in front of him, and he didn't even notice. Chapter 310. The bodyguard appears. Lin Yi pointed at the open window, not answering Guangbo's question. Can I ask you something? Why did you support Jin Gubang in the board meeting? Guangbo paused, understanding where Lin Yi was coming from. Peng Zhan sent you? If you can leave now. Go back and tell him that there's no room for discussion. You've been eating too many stupid pills, haven't you? Why would he send me here? I'm helping out of my own volition. Lin Yi curled his lips. Did this guy think he was some small fry? Asking him to pass on the message? Was he stupid? Peng Zhan treated him pretty well, but Lin Yi had come to Songshan only because of his old man. Other than old Lin and his assassin master, there was no one else who could send Lin Yi to do anything. Then what do you do? Guangbo was a little surprised at Lin Yi's words. This guy didn't seem to be Peng Zhan's follower at all. What did he do then? Lin Yi frowned impatiently. I'm Ming Yao's bodyguard. Ah. Guangbo was taken aback. Ming Yao's bodyguard was here for him? Wasn't he being a busybody? You're Ming Yao's bodyguard. What are you doing here instead of protecting her? You don't believe me when I say you're retarded. Lin Yi glared at him like he was an idiot. Peng Zhan's Ming Yao's dad. Who's going to pay for my expenses if he loses his job? Lin Yi was just saying that to draw a line between him and Peng Zhan. Peng Zhan could push all the blame away if things got exposed. If word got out that Peng Zhan threatened the shareholders, it wouldn't be good for his reputation. Guangbo was speechless. Were you the retarded one, or was I? Why was a bodyguard like you meddling in company business? Guangbo realized something all of a sudden. You're here for money, aren't you? Tell me how much. It was no wonder that Guangbo thought of Lin Yi as a money grubber. Lin Yi's identity had nothing to do with the company's business. I say, why are you talking so much nonsense? Do you want to die? Lin Yi kicked the safe beside him, sending it flying. It landed in front of Guangbo with a bang, just 1 centimeter away from his toes. Guangbo was completely caught off guard. Cold sweat dripped down from his forehead. Was he still human? Was he really a bodyguard? How could he be so awesome? He could send a safe that weighed a few hundred pounds flying with just 1 kick? When he looked at the safe, Guangbo felt a chill down his spine. On the side of the safe, there was a big hole. He was kicked out by Lin. This kind of vault safe was surrounded by thick iron plates. How could he kick a hole through it? It was already difficult for the thief to cut it open with a chainsaw, so how could he kick it? Of course, this was not the main problem. The main problem was that if the safe had flown any higher or further, he would have lost his life. I want you to stay away from Jin Gubang. Do you understand? Lin Yi didn't bother asking why the guy was helping Jin Gubang. As long as he was afraid of death, he'd better get as far away from Gubang as possible. Guangbo's face paled, but he didn't say anything. He couldn't answer Lin. What would happen to his son if he stayed away from Jin Gubang? Guangbo was scared, but he couldn't lower his head. Tell me, how much money do I have to pay for you to let me go? Money? You think you're rich? Lin Yi said disdainfully as he walked over. Guangbo shrunk back subconsciously. Lin Yi, however, didn't do anything to Guangbo. He walked over to the safe that was dented by the kick and pulled hard. The door was pulled down by Lin. Is there any money in this safe? Lin Yi flipped through the contents of the safe and found a bank book. He opened it, but Lin Yi was disappointed. There was a lot of money in the bank book, 40 million, but it had all been withdrawn a few days ago. There's only a few kwai left in your bank book. How are you going to give me money? Guangbo remembered that he'd transferred all his savings to his son a couple of days ago. Where would he have the money to give to Lin Yi? TSK, looks like you're in need of money? Is that why you agreed to Jin Gubang's request? Lin Yi tossed the bankbook aside and continued flipping through the contents of the safe. He smiled when he took out a stack of documents. Pengzhan Industries shares? All right, you can transfer them to me now. Guangbo abruptly sat up straight, a determined look on his face. That's impossible. Is that so? Lin Yi tossed the shares to the side. Do you want your life or the shares? However, at that moment, the door was kicked open and a man rushed in. As soon as the man rushed in, he shouted, "Mr. Xie, are you all right?" As soon as he asked the question, he saw Lin Yi and tensed up. He'd heard the loud noise coming from Guangbo's room and felt that something was wrong. He'd rushed up to see Lin Yi, as if he was facing a powerful enemy. The man was around 30 years old with an unprepossessing appearance. He was the type of person who'd be easily overlooked in a crowd. This type of person was perfect for a bodyguard. Guangbo let out a breath of relief when he saw the man walk in, a relaxed expression on his face. He knew how strong a bodyguard was, and although Lin Yi was strong, he wasn't a match for this man. "Huang, kill him." Xie Guangbo ordered the man who just came in. This person who could threaten his life, Xie Guangbo would not let him live in this world. Otherwise, the bodyguard could protect him, but it was impossible for the bodyguard to be by his side 24/7, especially when Lin Yi could sneak into his room without a sound. If there was a first time, there would be a second time. Guangbo was afraid of this kind of ability. If Lin Yi attacked him without alerting him next time, it would be difficult for him to escape. However, as he shouted, he'd already flown up and threw a punch at Lin Yi. "Who are you?" "Ha!" Lin Yi smiled faintly as he raised his fist. He didn't move from his spot, as if he was welcoming someone. The man was stunned. He didn't expect Lin Yi to take his punch head-on. This made him feel incredulous, and he increased the strength of his fist. He was ready to kill Lin Yi with one punch. Chapter 311. More than life, bang. A loud sound rang out, and Lin Yi didn't move an inch from where he stood. Huang, on the other hand, flew out in a straight line, landing on the wall in front of the room with another bang. The wall caved in, and the decorative picture frame fell to the ground, hitting Huang's head. Huang, however, was already unconscious, lying there motionless with a trail of black blood at the corner of his mouth. Lin Yi hadn't used his full strength, after all. An early-phase Golden Class Master wasn't worth it at all. Lin Yi had only reflected Huang's attack back at him. It was the same as punching himself. It wasn't enough to take Huang's life, but he'd have to stay in bed for a while. Lin Yi was here to negotiate with Guangbo, not to kill him. As for his bodyguard, Lin Yi wouldn't kill him. "Just who are you?" Guangbo didn't expect his bodyguard to die before Lin Yi could even finish one move. Of course, he didn't know that Huang was still alive. As far as he was concerned, Huang hadn't moved at all after flying out. What else could it be other than dead? "I told you, I'm Mingyao's bodyguard, or maybe I'm not her bodyguard. I don't know what I'm supposed to do." Lin Yi shrugged. "But now, can you sign the shares transfer agreement with me? I don't want to kill anyone, so don't force me." Guangbo was a little dispirited. Huang was his only hope, and he knew how strong he was. He was a legendary Golden Class Master. If Huang hadn't owed him a favor back then, a master of that level wouldn't have come to protect him. But a master of that level had been killed by Lin. This shocked and terrified Guangbo. "I can't transfer the shares to you." Guangbo shook his head. "Absolutely not. So you want to die?" Lin Yi was a little annoyed. There were people who cared about money more than their lives? This was the first time. This guy was obviously scared out of his wits, but when it came to shares, he refused to budge. "I don't want to." Guangbo shook his head, his eyes flashing with determination. "I can't give you the shares, even if I die." Lin Yi really didn't know what to say. He really wanted to slap this guy in front of him to death. Lin Yi picked up the door plank of the safe. He wanted to give Guangbo another shock. He wanted to bend the plank to scare him, but Guangbo misunderstood. He thought that Lin Yi had lost his patience and was about to kill him. Guangbo suddenly said, "Wait. Don't kill me. I can give you the shares, but you have to wait for a few days." "How many days?" Lin Yi was taken aback. At least after Jin Gubang becomes the chairman of the company, I'll give all my shares to you. Xie Guangbo said, even if I go to jail, it doesn't matter. You can kill me and I'll give you the shares, but I can't do it now, Guangbo's words confused Lin. He had to wait for Jin Gubang to become the chairman before giving him the shares? He could even kill him afterwards. Was there such a ridiculous thing in the world? Was this Jin Gubang his father or grandfather? Was he really worth doing this for? What did Jin Gubang give you? Lin Yi frowned. My son, he's studying abroad, but he got addicted to gambling and drugs. He owes the local mafia 100 million, and they've got him under their control. They'll kill him if I don't give them the money. Guangbo knew that if he didn't explain things to Lin Yi wouldn't let him go. He might even kill him in a fit of rage. Oh, you're saying that Jin Gubang paid for your son's debt? Lin Yi frowned, so that was the reason? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. What a pitiful parent. In order to save his son, Xie Guangbo would rather die than to transfer his shares to him. But in order to save his son, he could give up his shares and life. No, he doesn't have that much liquid cash and neither do I. Guangbo smiled bitterly. My son owes them US dollars. The 40 million I have in my bank account is just a drop in the bucket. But Jin Gubang has promised me that he'll let me use the company's funds after he becomes the chairman. Fuck. Lin Yi really wanted to curse. This Jin Gubang was quite mean, agreeing to something like that. It seemed like he was willing to do anything to become the chairman, sacrificing the company's profits for this position. Where's your son? I'll bring him back and you'll give me the shares. Lin Yi didn't use a questioning tone at the end, but a commanding tone instead. It was an unquestionable order. Guangbo blinked. What, you don't believe in my strength? Lin Yi narrowed his eyes at Guangbo. No, of course not. Guangbo quickly shook his head. What a joke. How could he dare doubt Lin Yi's strength now? Even a Huang was beaten to a point where he didn't even know if he was dead or alive. Strength like that was rare in this world. But, as strong as he was up against a foreign mafia. Could he really bring his son back? Do you really think your son will come back safe and sound after giving them money? Lin Yi looked at Guangbo mockingly. Why don't you use your brain and think about it? Do you think they'll let a money tree like this go? Drug and gambling addictions are the hardest to kick. As long as he's still alive, you'll just have to prepare more money next time. Guangbo didn't deny. He agreed with Lin Yi's words in his heart. This wasn't the first time his son had asked for money, but there were all sorts of reasons he'd come up with before, but none of them had asked for as much as this time. He'd offended some powerful people. He wanted to buy a car. His girlfriend ran away with someone. Guangbo told his son to come back as soon as possible after giving him the money, but his son didn't seem to listen at all. Now that he thought about it, Lin Yi was probably telling the truth. His son was using the money to pay off his debt and loan sharks. I'll give you 1 second to think. Do you want to die now, or do you want to bring your son back and give me the shares? Lin Yi looked at Guangbo as he slowly raised the safe. All right, 1 second's up. Wait. Guangbo quickly waved his hand. I agree. Chapter 312. Yao Yao's complaint. Lin Yi looked at Guangbo and nodded, satisfied. He threw the safe down. Let's put off Jin Gubang. I'll get your son back in a week. Don't try anything funny or you and your son. Lin Yi didn't finish his sentence, but Guangbo understood what he meant. Don't worry, as long as my son's fine, I'll cooperate with you no matter what. Guangbo had thought it through as well. Lin Yi really bringing his son back would be for the best. He'd have no shares and no money, but he'd be able to let his son live a hard life like a normal person. Without the money for drugs and gambling, his son might be able to walk the right path. I hope you'll do as you say. Lin Yi looked at Guangbo deeply, noticing that his eyes were clear. I'll fulfill your wish as well. Give me your son's information and send it to my voicemail. My phone number is 152x x 1234. I'll send it to you in a bit. May I ask? Guangbo asked carefully. He won't die. A golden class master like him only needs half a month to recover. Lin Yi said with a wave of his hand. Guangbo's heart skipped a beat. Lin Yi could see through Huang's strength so easily? What kind of strength did he have, then? But the stronger Lin Yi was, the happier Guangbo was. It was the only way Lin Yi could bring his son back from the mafia. Lin Yi didn't jump out the window this time. He walked out the front door with a swagger, disappearing from Guangbo's sight in the Beetle. Beetle? Guangbo blinked. He glanced at the license plate and remembered that it was Yushu's, Mingyao's best friend's car. Was he really one of Mingyao's people? But Guangbo couldn't believe that a master like that would be Mingyao's bodyguard. How was that possible? Even Pengzhan's Faubert wasn't as strong as him, was he? Guangbo shook his head and stopped guessing Lin Yi's identity. There was no point in guessing. He just needed to follow Lin Yi's instructions. She called Nurse Wang in the servant's room and asked her to send a Huang back to his room. Since Lin Yi said that a Huang was fine, it should be fine. When he entered the room, a Huang was already awake. He opened his eyes with difficulty and looked at Guangbo. Mr. Xie, I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you. Don't say any more. The other party was very powerful. Are you all right? Do you need to go to the hospital? Guangbo waved his hand. He couldn't blame A Huang for being weaker than him. A Huang had tried his best. No, I'll be fine after some rest. Huang shook his head. He's at least a late phase golden class. Mr. Xie, you're not hurt? No. Guangbo smiled bitterly. A late phase golden class was 2 levels higher than A Huang. Naturally, A Huang wouldn't be a match for a master like that. Lin Yi drove back to the villa area only to find that Pengzhan's car was still there. Pengzhan wasn't in the car anymore, but Faubert was sitting quietly in the driver's seat. Where's Uncle Chu? Lin Yi asked after parking the car. In the villa. Mr. Chu told you to go find him when you got back. Faubert nodded to Lin. Lin Yi entered the villa to see Pengzhan talking to Meng Yao on the sofa. Yushu was watching TV on the side as well. Meng Yao wasn't happy to see Lin Yi so late. Daddy, look at Lin. He's always so late. You're the one who hired him 24 hours a day. How can he be so undisciplined? Meng Yao said as she looked at Lin Yi proudly. Let's see if you still dare to go out and flirt with other girls. My daddy's here now. You've caught him red-handed, haven't you? Let's see how you explain this. But, to Meng Yao's surprise, Pengzhan interrupted before Lin Yi could explain. Yao Yao, Lin Yi went to do something for me. Don't talk nonsense. Plus, Lin Yi takes care of your studies during the day and stays by your side at night. What kind of work discipline is that? Can't he have his own things to do? Daddy. Meng Yao wasn't expecting to be scolded instead of Lin. She glared at Lin Yi with an unhappy face. This guy. How could he be protected by her daddy like this? If it weren't for the fact that she was her mother's only child, and that her father wasn't a playboy, she would have thought that Lin Yi was her father's bastard. Alright, come with me for a bit? Yeah, let's go to your room. Pengzhan didn't bother with his daughter. He'd been busy with company matters, and in order not to worry his daughter, he'd forced a smile on his face as he talked to her about her studies. Now that Lin Yi was back, Pengzhan couldn't wait to know the results. Okay, Uncle Chu. Lin Yi nodded before entering his room with Pengzhan. Pengzhan was getting impatient the moment he closed the door. How did it go? What did Guangbo say? He won't be hanging out with Jin Gubang for the next couple of days, but I'll have to go overseas for a while. Lin said, Abroad? What's going on? Pengzhan was delighted to hear that Guangbo wouldn't be supporting Jin Gubang. As long as Guangbo didn't interfere, Jin Gubang wouldn't be able to do anything on his own. Xie Guangbo's son owes the mafia a loan of $100 million. Lin Yi explained simply. Guangbo supported Jin Gubang as the new chairman because Jin Gubang agreed to let him use the company's funds to pay off his son's debt. So that's the reason, Pengzhan said. Then you're going overseas, bringing his son back in exchange? Lin Yi said casually. But don't worry, Uncle Chu. It's only a 10-hour trip, and 2 days is more than enough. 2 days and you'll be able to bring him back? Pengzhan blinked, but nodded at the thought of Lin Yi's efficiency and skills. Then I'll have to trouble you. Be careful, but I'll have to trouble Faubert for a few days. I'm afraid that Guangbo's sudden betrayal will drive Jin Gubang to the wall, and he might do something extreme. Lin Yi said. I'd have him disappear if I wasn't afraid of causing trouble for you. Chapter 313. Chapter 313, Small Matter. Pengzhan's words warmed Lin Yi's hearts. It seemed that Pengzhan wasn't treating him as a hired person. He was caring for someone younger than him. Uncle Chu, actually, this is really a small matter. Lin Yi felt very blessed right now. Someone cared for him every day. Was this the life of a normal person? Small matter? This is a small matter? You're about to face a foreign mafia. Pengzhan said seriously. They're different from the gangsters back in China. They're a bunch of desperados with guns and ammunitions. How am I supposed to answer to Elder Lin if something were to happen to you? Even my father wouldn't let me off the hook. Lin Yi didn't know how old Lin communicated with Pengzhan, but it seemed like the old man didn't know what he'd done in the past. Not to mention a mafia leader, he'd even send private armies and mercenary leaders of smaller countries to their deaths. Uncle Chu, you'd know if you knew my old man. Actually, what I'm about to do is really a small matter. Lin Yi explained with a bitter smile. All right, I believe you. Pengzhan nodded after hearing Lin Yi's words. You can just call Faubert and get him to take care of the plane ticket. I'll be going back first. Since Guangbo won't be on Jin Gubang's side anymore, I'll have to reconsider how to deal with Gubang. All right, take care, Uncle Chu. Lin Yi got up and walked Pengzhan to the door. Pengzhan waved his hand and left the villa after a few words with Meng Yao. It was getting late, and Meng Yao and Yushu locked the door and turned off the TV, yawning as they went upstairs to sleep. Lin Yi, on the other hand, sat in front of his computer and logged into his mailbox. As expected, Guangbo had already sent all the information on his son to Lin. Xie Guangbo's son was Xie Jinbiao. He was 19 years old and was an international student. However, he was now brought to a remote town called Blue Town. It was a border town of a small country. Due to its geographical location, public security was very chaotic. The entire town was under the control of the local gangs. Xie Jinbiao was captured there. The Blue Water Gang didn't seem to be afraid of revealing their location to Guangbo because the city was completely under the mafia's control. They didn't think that Guangbo's influence would reach here at all. Even the other gangs nearby would give the Blue Water some face and wouldn't trespass on their territory for no good reason. Of course, the Blue Water leader didn't think Guangbo had the ability to do so even if he did. Life or death was up to the Blue Water Gang's whims once they entered the city. The headquarters of the Blue Water Gang was located in the ancient Blue Castle of Blue City. The castle had a bit of history and belonged to the owner of the city, a great family that had a glorious era. But that was a thing of the past, since the entire family had been wiped out after offending a powerful being a few decades ago. That was a very powerful family. In the past, the business and political power of the little blue city was completely controlled by this family. So when this family was destroyed, this place was in a state of chaos for a period of time. A few years later, Blue Town was taken over by the Blue Water, and order was restored. It was just a small gang after all, and couldn't compare to a big family. The city's economy plummeted, and the Blue Water Gang had no choice but to use drugs and gambling to attract tourists. A strange smile appeared on Lin Yi's face as he looked at the information Guangbo had given him. Blue Town? Blue Castle? That name sounded familiar. His assassin master had said that he'd wiped out a trash family before, but Lin Yi couldn't remember if they lived in Blue Castle. Lin Yi called Faubert and asked him to book a plane ticket for tomorrow night. It wouldn't take more than 2 days, and it shouldn't affect his attendance at Kong Xiaobo's birthday party. Lin Yi got a call from Xu Emin the next morning. The Lius had already gathered the money for the doctor's treatment, 100 million. They could transfer it over at any time. Lin Yi was amazed by this. Weren't the Lius a little too efficient? They had money so early in the morning? What they didn't know was that Elder Zhenhu was the pillar of the Lius. No matter how much money they had to protect him first. I understand, Grandpa Guan. I'll be there in a bit. Lin Yi said. Let them wait. Xu Emin smiled and hung up the phone. He told Lu Tianyi about Lin Yi's intentions. However, Lu Tianyi wasn't angry at all. Everyone was like this, so what if he had to wait for a while? If Lin Yi heard that the money was ready and rushed over, Lu Tianyi would even suspect that Lin Yi was a scammer. Now that Lin Yi didn't seem to care, Lu Tianyi felt that it was normal. 100 million, if it was any other ordinary teenager, they might not know what to do. How big of a number was that? But Lin Yi had asked for 100 million straight away, as if he didn't care about it at all. Lu Tianyi felt that Lin Yi was very confident that he could cure his old man's illness. That was why he dared to ask for such a price. Lu Tianyi had Wu Huiru get ready to wake up the old man while he contacted his subordinates to prepare the money as soon as possible. It wouldn't be fun if Lin Yi turned around and left in a rage before the money was ready. Lin Yi put his phone down and went to the kitchen. He needed breakfast every day anyway, so he'd bring some for Mengyao and Yushu along the way. Come to think of it, the girls were quite pitiful. Their parents were busy with work, and they didn't have anyone to take care of them. They were in their 12th year of high school, studying late into the night with severe lack of sleep. How was this the life of a miss? The two were smart, but there were too many smart people in the college entrance exam. In the end, it still depended on who had the most preparation. Being smart wasn't enough to get good grades. This was something Lin Yi admired. Even if they didn't take the college entrance exams, Peng Zhan could have easily found a good university for them with his strength alone. Yet, they relied on their own hard work to get good grades. This was a fundamental difference from Zhong Pingliang, who only knew how to eat and wait for death. Chapter 3:14. Pinliang, depressed Lin Yi drove his old van to school, following Falbert's Bentley from afar. Actually, Falbert's skills were more than enough for him to handle emergencies. There weren't many people who would attack this bulletproof Bentley on the way to school. Lin Yi saw Tang Yun, Kang Xiaobo, and Lu Xinwen getting off the bus when they were almost at school. He didn't think that they would bump into each other in the morning. Lin Yi had heard that Kang Xiaobo and Tang Yun were going the same way, but Kang Xiaobo didn't know Kang Xiaobo before. Now, Kang Xiaobo could officially stand together with Tang Yun, his sister-in-law. Didi. Lin Yi pressed the horn twice. Xiaobo frowned as he turned around to see an old van. What the hell was an old van honking for? Plus, the road was wide and there was nothing in the way. But Tang Yun looked at the bun and found it familiar. She looked at the person in the driver's seat, and a smile appeared on her face. That smile made Lin Yi a little dazed, and he almost drove the car over. Fortunately, his reflexes were quick, or it would have been a tragedy. Is that boss? Kang Xiaobo saw that it was Lin Yi who was driving. He ran over with his backpack and jumped in. He called out to Tang Yun and Lu Xinwen, "You guys get in too?" Tang Yun was a bit bashful. They were almost at school. Why would they need to take a car? Wouldn't it be fine to just walk? Okay. Lu Xinwen replied and pulled Tang Yun into the van. Boss, is this your car? Kang Xiaobo looked at the broken van, speechless. This was completely different from the boss Lin he knew. Hey, you guessed it right. This is my car. Lin Yi handed the license to Kang Xiaobo. I just got it yesterday. Kang Xiaobo looked at the license and saw that it was indeed Lin Yi's name. He was speechless. This car really belonged to Lin. Was the Beetle really borrowed? Boss, is this the car you mentioned yesterday? Kang Xiaobo handed the license back to Lin. Yeah, I'm actually really poor, but I have a rich relative. It's already good enough that I can drive this car. Lin smiled. Lin Yi's words touched Kang Xiaobo and Lu Xinwen. Lin Yi didn't seem to be the young master they were talking about. However, it was commendable for him to use all his money to pay for Xiaofan's medical fees. Tang Yun had long noticed that Lin Yi was different from others. She was curious about Lin. Lin Yi didn't look like a young master, but sometimes, Lin Yi was even more arrogant than those young masters. As for this car, Tang Yun was familiar with it. It seemed to be the car that was snatched from Heibao that night, and Lin Yi took it for himself. Although Tang Yun didn't approve of this robbery, Heibao was too much. Being punished by Lin Yi with a car was already very light. Of course, Tang Yun didn't know that Heibao was still lying in the hospital's intensive care unit. The bones in his body were all broken. It would take at least half a year for him to recover. Lin Yi parked the car in the food street behind the school, and the four entered the school together. The students of the school were already used to these four people who were often together. Even Wang Jifeng, the Dean of Academic Affairs, was not used to them and nodded at them. Dean Wang. Lin Yi suddenly remembered that he was going abroad and wanted to ask for a leave. Oh, Lin Yi, what's the matter? Wang Jifeng squeezed a smile on his face. He already had a shadow in his heart. Every time he had an affair with the female teacher, he couldn't help but think about it. Lin Yi knew about it, so when Lin Yi called him, he couldn't help but think about the affair with the female teacher. This was a strange circle, the cycle of cause and effect, repeated over and over again. However, Wang Jifeng was a bit afraid. This kid always did things that made him feel embarrassed. Would he find him for something? Well, I might have something to do these 2 days. I need to ask for a few days of leave. Is that okay? Linus. If that's the case, of course it's okay. Go do what you need to do. I'll tell your homeroom teacher. Wang Jifeng heard this and immediately calmed down. Jifeng calmed down after hearing that. It wasn't a big deal at all, and it wasn't the first time Leonie skipped class, either. After Wang Jifeng left, Kang Xiaobo was a bit curious. Boss, you need to ask for a leave? What do you need to do? You won't miss my second grandpa's birthday this weekend, right? Tang Yun also widened her eyes and stared at Lin. She also wanted to ask, but Kang Xiaobo asked first. Only Lu Xinwen wasn't interested. Whether Lin Yi went to school or not didn't have much to do with her. I was invited to treat a patient. Lin Yi naturally couldn't say that he was going abroad, so he said it with a lie. Treat? You know how to treat patients? You know acupuncture? Lu Xinwen was a bit surprised, but she suddenly remembered what happened with Xiaofan and nodded. I'm just going to help, Lin Yi smiled. That's not bad. Kang Xiaobo gave a thumbs up in admiration. Boss, hurry up and improve your medical skills. It would be great if you can treat Xiaofan. I will work hard. Lin Yi nodded. Kang Xiaobo and Tang Yun knew that Lin Yi had some medical skills, so they didn't find it strange that Lin Yi went to see a patient. Last time, Lin Yi told Tang Yun that he had a way to treat Xiaofan's illness, but he couldn't do it now. So Tang Yun and Kang Xiaobo naturally thought that Lin Yi was talking about his medical skills not being enough. Tang Yun wanted to ask Lin Yi if he could take a look at her father's illness, but she remembered that Lin Yi couldn't do anything for Xiaofan, so she didn't ask. When they entered the class, Meng Yao and Yushu were already sitting on their seats. Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo walked in, and the two raised their heads to look at Lin Yi before going back to their work. Pin Liang was depressed. He had said that he was going to write a letter of love to Meng Yao yesterday, but it ended because of the bloody mess. No one brought it up today, but Pin Liang felt like everyone was looking at him strangely. It was almost as if they were mocking him. Pin Liang didn't know if it was his imagination playing tricks on him, but he felt a little uneasy. Chapter 315. You're being insincere, Xiaofu paused. You're still writing it? Yeah, I sent out the news yesterday, saying that I'm writing a letter of blood to Meng Yao. There was an accident, but what do you think people will think of me if I don't write it? Won't they think I'm a coward? Pin Liang asked. This. Gao Xiaofu put down his bag and said hesitantly, Liang, to be honest, a man should always keep his word. I feel that whether or not people laugh at this matter and how they view it, it has nothing to do with you. What matters is what Meng Yao thinks. Meng Yao's attitude is the key. That's right. Pin Liang slapped his thigh, suddenly enlightened. Fu, you're the one who woke me up from my daydream. It's true, what other people think has nothing to do with me, it's Meng Yao's attitude that matters. But how do I know what Meng Yao thinks? Does she want me to write her a letter of blood or not? That? Xiaofu wasn't sure. Maybe you can ask her? How am I supposed to ask her? Fu, maybe you can ask Yushu? She's good friends with Meng Yao, you can ask her. Pin Liang suggested. That works too. I'll ask her. Xiaofu nodded and took out his phone, sending Yushu a text. With modern communication tools like phones, there was no need for him to ask her personally anymore. Miss Yushu, may I ask what Miss Meng Yao thinks about Liang Bro's letter of blood yesterday? Xiaofu's text was very politely. He was afraid that Meng Yao would ignore him. It wasn't long before Xiaofu received Yushu's reply. Yao Yao said that Liang Zi's hands are only good as a water gun. Forget about the letter of blood. Xiaofu wanted to laugh, but didn't dare. He handed the phone to Pin Liang. Pin Liang didn't quite understand after reading the text. Fu, what do you think she means? Liang bro, forgive me for being blunt, but I think Meng Yao looks down on you. Xiaofu said carefully. Despise? Pin Liang paused and looked at the message. There was indeed a hint of disdain in it. He panicked. Fu, what should we do? Indeed, it's as if Yu Shu is laughing at me for not being able to write a blood letter. Brother Liang, why don't you write another blood letter? Prove to them that it's not that you can't do it, that what happened yesterday was just an accident. Gao Xiaofu suggested. That's fine. Pin Liang nodded. This was the only way. Xiaofu quickly prepared a new piece of paper for Pin Liang. Pin Liang held the carving knife in his hand, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. It wasn't that he was afraid of pain, it was just that yesterday's incident had left a lingering fear in his heart. What if he cut his finger and caused it to bleed profusely? Pin Liang hesitated. Liang bro, what's wrong? Xiaofu asked, noticing Pin Liang's hesitation. Xiaofu, I don't dare to do it anymore. What happened yesterday was too fucking scary. Pin Liang's hand was shaking as he held the carving knife. Plus, if he were to cut it today, he'd have to get a new finger. He couldn't keep cutting on the same wound yesterday, wouldn't that hurt? As a result, Pin Liang couldn't bring himself to do it. Liang bro, a man should be harder on himself. Do you want me to help you? Xiaofu asked. You'll help me? Pin Liang blinked. Sure. Fu, you're such a good friend. If that's the case, I won't hold back. I'll treat you to lunch. Xiaofu paused as well, a bitter smile on his face. He'd wanted to cut Pin Liang's finger with the carving knife, but Pin Liang had clearly misunderstood him, thinking that he wanted to cut his finger and write a blood letter for him. What's wrong? Pin Liang handed the carving knife to Xiaofu. Is there a problem? Nothing. Xiaofu took the knife and gritted his teeth, cutting his index finger. Blood gushed out, but Pin Liang's hemorrhage from yesterday didn't happen. Alright Fu, don't move. I'll use your finger to write a blood letter. With that, Pin Liang held Xiaofu's finger and started writing on the paper in front of him. What he didn't know was that this wasn't unseen. Yu Shu, who wasn't far away, had her phone raised and zoomed in on the camera, just enough to see Pin Liang and Xiaofu clearly. Yao Yao, this Pin Liang guy isn't much, isn't he? He's using Xiaofu's finger to write a blood letter for you? Isn't that a little too insincere? Yu Shu said with a giggle. What does that have to do with me? Meng Yao said, ignoring Yu Shu as she continued reading her book. Man, that's boring. Yu Shu put her phone away, a little disappointed. I wanted to see Pin Liang's hand turn into a water gun one more time. Meng Yao was speechless. What was there to see? Were you afraid that Pin Liang would die too slowly? The first class ended, and Pin Liang ran over to Meng Yao's desk with the letter written in Xiaofu's blood. He held the letter up with both hands. Yao Yao, please accept my confession of love from the bottom of my heart. Meng Yao frowned. She didn't even look at Pin Liang, nor did she care about him. Yu Shu, on the other hand, stood up with a smile and took the letter from Pin Liang's hands. Let me check it for you first. Is there anything wrong with it? Okay. Pin Liang was overjoyed that Yu Shu was willing to help. With Yu Shu, Meng Yao's best friend, giving him pointers, wouldn't it be just a matter of time before he got to Meng Yao? Yu Shu opened the letter. She didn't want to read it, actually. She didn't have the time to read this guy's crappy letter. But Yu Shu had an even better idea. What do you think? Pin Liang looked at Yu Shu expectantly, waiting for her pointers. Hey, why didn't you sign it? Who'd know who wrote it if you did that? Yu Shu's eyes darted around. She'd finally found an entry point. Sign. Pin Liang blinked. Isn't this a letter written by me? Do I even need to sign it? Of course, you're not sincere at all. Yu Shu said with a straight face. You don't even have a sign on your letter, it's not official at all. No wonder you couldn't get Yao Yao after all this time. Yu Shu curled her lips as she spoke, a look of disdain on her face. Chapter 316. The best partner, you don't have to go back, you can do it here. Yu Shu said with a half smile as she looked at the band-aid on Pin Liang's hand. Other than the cut on his index finger yesterday, Pin Liang had also wrapped a band-aid around his right middle finger to confuse Meng Yao and Yu Shu. He couldn't let them know that today's blood letter was written with Gao Xiaofu's blood, after all. Pin Liang paused before a bitter smile appeared on his face. The wound on my hand has dried up. I'll have to go back and get a carving knife. Oh, it's fine, I have a carving knife here. I'll lend it to you. With that, Yushu pulled out a carving knife from her bag like magic and handed it to Pinliang. Pinliang sweated. Why was he so unlucky? He had thought that he had escaped death, but he did not expect that he would still have to cut his finger. Yushu was right here too, and it wouldn't be right if he didn't do it. Pinliang's face was covered in cold sweat. It's not a good idea to do it here, is it? What if the blood spurts out everywhere and scares you guys? I say, Liangyi, you don't get it, do? Yushu said. How could I let you go back? I still want to see you bleed non-stop. She pretended to be teaching him a lesson. Cut your finger in front of the girl you love and sign your name on the blood letter in front of her. That's the only way to show how much you love her. Is that so? Pinliang was starting to get excited. Then I'll do it now? What are you waiting for? Yushu asked back. Alright. Pinliang's face lit up with determination. Meng Yao was amused. This Shu really didn't bat an eyelid when it came to messing with people. Zhong Pinliang was in big trouble because of Shu. But she hated Pinliang, so she didn't try to stop him. However, it was also because of Meng Yao's indifferent attitude that Pinliang thought that she was agreeing to it. Under normal circumstances, Meng Yao would have kicked him out impatiently if she didn't like him. But this time, Meng Yao didn't say anything, which meant that she agreed. This made Pinliang even more determined. He took the carving knife from Yushu, wondering which finger he should cut this time. While Pinliang was hesitating, Yushu sent a message to Lin. Shield bro, Pinliang's cutting his finger again. Please come help. Pinliang gripped the carving knife, gritting his teeth as if he'd made a difficult decision. Abruptly, he cut off his right thumb. He could only cut this finger. It was not convenient to write on the other fingers. Lin Yi looked at the message on his phone and stood up slowly. He walked over to Pinliang, a smile on his face when he saw him cut his finger. It seemed like the kid hadn't learned his lesson from yesterday. Don't block the way, Lin Yi said as he pulled on Pinliang's arm, causing him to stumble. Pinliang was just about to sign his name when Lin Yi's voice came from behind him, startling him. He thought that Lin Yi was going to kick him again, but after the push, Lin Yi strode over without hesitation. Phew. Pinliang breathed out in relief. It seemed like Lin Yi didn't do anything to him because he was in a hurry to go to the washroom. Well, Yushu pointed at Pinliang's finger excitedly. Liangyi, your finger's bleeding. That's so cool. Do you have superpowers? Is this the legendary six-pulse blade? Pinliang blinked, not understanding what Yushu was talking about. He lowered his head to continue writing, only to realize that the paper was already soaked in blood. His hand, on the other hand, blood was gushing out like a fountain, just like yesterday. Pinliang yelped as he tossed the blood letter aside and ran back to his seat. Fu, Band-Aids, give me a Band-Aid. Yushu raised two fingers in a V shape as she watched Pinliang run away. She cheered happily. Case success. Shield bro and I work well together. Meng Yao didn't know what to say as she looked at her best friend. She was now certain that Pinliang's bleeding yesterday had to have been caused by Lin Yi. Before Lin Yi came over, Pinliang's finger was still bleeding very slowly, but after Lin Yi came over, the blood was gushing out like a fountain. It was obviously Lin Yi's doing. Lin Yi and Yushu? They really were a match made in heaven, the prankster duo. It'd be hard for Pinliang not to be crippled in the future. Miao's heart ached a little at the thought of Yushu and Lin Yi being a match made in heaven. She had to admit that Yushu and Yushu were very similar in some ways. Hee, Yao Yao, what do you think? Feels good, right? Let's see if Pinliang dares write that blood letter again. Yushu turned back to look at Pinliang, only to see him trying to wrap a Band-Aid around his wound. One Band-Aid wasn't enough to stop the blood anymore. Pinliang had no choice but to wrap it around his finger with cellophane tape. Only this sort of airtight tape could stop the wound. Pinliang found it strange. How did his finger end up like this? It had never happened before. Lin Yi went to the washroom and returned to the classroom. Yushu winked at him and made a victory sign with her hand. Lin Yi smiled. Boss, why did you go out just now? Didn't you see that amazing scene? Kong Xiaobo looked at Lin Yi with a pitiful expression. Oh, what's wrong? Lin Yi asked with a smile as he sat down in his seat. You didn't see it, but Pin Liang started spewing blood again. It was spectacular. I've never seen anyone bleed like that before. Kong Xiaobo said. You didn't see it, but it's even worse than yesterday. The blood was shooting out of his hand. Is that so? Lin said. Of course it was worse than yesterday. He'd only sped up his blood circulation yesterday, but he'd raised his blood pressure today. Lin Yi's phone vibrated again as he spoke. He'd received a text. Great teamwork, the best partner. Yay yay yay. Chapter 317. I don't understand, Kong Xiaobo asked curiously. Boss, whose text is it? It can't be from sis-in-law Tang Yun, right? What Tang Yun? She doesn't even have a phone. Lin Yi glared at Kong Xiaobo. It's the weather report. Oh. Kong Xiaobo remembered that Lin Yi was going to buy a phone with Tang Yun at noon. He was going to buy one for Xiaofan as well. At noon, Lin Yi, Tang Yun, Kong Xiaobo, and Lu Xinwen left the school together. Lin Yi had an old van, so he didn't need to take a taxi anymore. Although the car wasn't good, it was better than nothing. Tang Yun, Kong Xiaobo wants to buy a phone for Xiaofan. It'll be easier to contact her. What about you? Lin Yi asked Tang Yun, who was sitting in the front passenger seat. Kong Xiaobo gave the seat to Tang Yun and sat in the back with Lu Xinwen. Me? I'm not buying it. I don't have much use for it. Tang Yun shook her head. Her family situation didn't allow her to buy a phone. Although it wasn't expensive, she would need to buy a SIM card and a monthly rental fee. It wasn't a small amount, so Tang Yun rejected it. Boss will pay for it. Xiaobo continued. Fan's phone was a gift from my boss, sis-in-law. She'd never accept it if he bought her a phone if you didn't want it, sis-in-law. Please help me. Tang Yun couldn't help but giggle after hearing Kong Xiaobo's words. Begging someone to buy a phone for them. However, Tang Yun remembered that Lin Yi bought her a dress at the night market and asked her for 50 kuai. Thinking about it, it was strange sometimes. Back then, she had hated him to death, but now, she was sitting quietly in his car, sitting beside him. She'd thrown the dress in her closet because she was mad. But she'd probably be able to find it when she got home tonight. Tang Yun couldn't help but smile at the thought. Would she have accepted the dress if he'd given it to her? The answer was no. But now, Lin Yi wanted to buy her a phone, and after some persuasion from Kong Xiaobo, Tang Yun acquiesced. Lin Yi parked the car in front of a mobile phone store, and the four of them got out of the car together. When the salesperson saw that the four of them were wearing school uniforms, he knew that they were students. He immediately recommended a few cheap cell phones. Kong Xiaobo also wanted to buy a cheaper phone. He didn't want Lin Yi to spend money on a smartphone that easily cost a few thousand yuan. What price range do you want to buy? The salesperson asked. Kong Xiaobo wanted to say 200 or 300 yuan, but Lin Yi had to make the decision, so he turned to look at Lin. Lin Yi knew that Kong Xiaobo wanted to buy a cheaper one. According to his plan yesterday, he wanted to buy 200 or 300 yuan, but Lin Yi didn't want to buy one that was too cheap for Tang Yun. If he bought one that was 200 or 300 yuan for Xiaofan, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't buy one that was too expensive for Tang Yun. Differential treatment, and it wouldn't be good if Xiaofan had any ideas. Around 1,000 yuan. Lin Yi thought about it and set a price. Tang Yun wouldn't be able to accept a price that was too expensive, so this price should be about right. Nokia 5233, this phone is very popular among students. It's cheap and has all the functions, but it lacks the GPS function compared to the 5230. But you students won't need that function anyway. The salesperson took out a phone and introduced it to Lin Yi and the others. The price is cheaper than the 5230, only 833 yuan. What do you think? Lin Yi pushed the phone to Tang Yun, asking for her opinion. It's pretty good, but it's a bit expensive. Tang Yun still couldn't accept the fact that she wanted something from Lin Yi. Although Kong Xiaobo tried to persuade her for a long time, she still felt that she shouldn't buy it. Lin Yi smiled and said to the salesperson, then I'll take 3 of these phones. How about, we buy the 300 yuan one? Tang Yun saw that Lin Yi wanted to buy it, so she hesitated and pointed at the 300 yuan phone. Kong Xiaobo is giving it to Fun, it's too shabby, he can't take it out, right? Lin Yi whispered. Oh. Tang Yun could only nod, but she felt a bit depressed in her heart. She owed Lin Yi more and more. How could she pay him back? From the barbecue recipe, to him helping her and her mother chase away those bullies, to Fin's medical fees, although Kang Xiaobo played a part in it, most of it was because of her face. So Tang Yun couldn't pretend that she didn't know anything. He saved her again. Now he wanted to buy a phone for her. Tang Yun didn't know if her relationship with Lin Yi would become more and more complicated if this continued. Did he really like her? While he was hesitating, Lin Yi had already bought 3 phones and 2 SIM cards. One of them was Fin's birthday, and the other was Tang Yin's birthday. Xinwen was in charge of both of them. Lin Yi swiped the card and distributed the phones. Tang Yun got one, Kang Xiaobo got one, and Lu Xinwen had an older phone, so she didn't need to buy it. Lin Yi used the last one for himself. The expensive phone from before was also broken, so Lin Yi bought a cheap one. No matter how expensive it would be ruined if it was soaked in water. Lin Yi's job was more dangerous, so he chose a cheap phone. If it wasn't for the fact that Yushu's phone was too feminine and Lin Yi didn't want to take it out, Lin Yi would just use it. Tang Yun sighed lightly. She owed him a lot. She owed him a lot already, so a phone wouldn't make much of a difference. But when she got in the car, she whispered to Lin Yi, "Thank you, huh?" Lin Yi smiled and turned his head to look at Tang Yun mischievously. "Then how are you going to thank me?" "What? How am I going to thank you?" Tang Yun jumped and blushed, remembering what she promised him yesterday at the hospital. Her heart raced. "Yesterday at the hospital, you still owe me a kiss," Lin Yi said in a low voice. As expected, he was talking about that. Tang Yun blushed. What? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand. Chapter 318. A moment of brilliance. Lin Yi drove Tang Yun, Kang Xiaobo, and Lu Xinwen to the entrance of the hospital. "I'll be leaving?" Tang Yun hugged the phone, feeling a bit uneasy. It was the first time she'd received such an expensive gift from someone, and it was from a boy. Tang Yun couldn't calm down for a long time. "Yeah, I won't be using my phone for the next few days. Text me if there's anything, I'll check it after I turn it on." Lin Yi said, "You can take a taxi with Xiaobo later, let him pay." Tang Yun couldn't help but smile as she listened to Lin Yi's words. Her smile was like a blooming flower. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat as he grabbed Tang Yun's hand and pulled her back. "What are you doing?" Tang Yun froze and looked at Kang Xiaobo and Lu Xinwen, who'd already gotten out of the car. She let out a breath of relief when she saw that they weren't looking at her. "Aren't you going to say something before we leave?" Lin Yi pointed at his face. "I'll say it again." Tang Yun couldn't stand Lin Yi's teasing. She struggled out of Lin Yi's hand and ran out of the car. Her heart raced as she let out a long breath. She looked at Lin Yi and pouted before turning around and ignoring him. If it had been anyone else, Tang Yun would have run away crying, but with Lin Yi, all she felt was shyness. Tang Yun, who suddenly realized this, started to feel lost. Was it a good thing for her to fall deeper and deeper in love with Lin Yi? "Yun, what's wrong? You don't look well?" Lu Xinwen was talking to Kang Xiaobo when she looked up to see Tang Yun's reddened face. It was like she had a heat stroke. "It's nothing." Tang Yun quickly shook her head. Let's go." Xinwen shook her head. She didn't know what happened to Tang Yun. She turned around to look at Lin Yi's car, but realized that Lin Yi's car was already far away. She could only bury the question in her heart. Before leaving the country, Lin Yi had to deal with Lu Zhenhu's illness first. While he could extort some money from the man, he could also give Xuemin time to start planning for the medical company. This incident made Lin Yi realize that it was better to be on time than to be on time. He was just thinking about how to get 100 million yuan of startup capital, and in the blink of an eye, the Lu family sent it to him. The efficiency of raising funds was probably unmatched. Lin Yi gave Guan Xuemin a call and told him to call Zhenhu and the others over. He'd be there soon. "All right, Lu Tiany's already waiting here, waiting for your news. He'll have someone bring Elder Lu here," Xuemin said. "Have you had lunch?" "Not yet, but there's no rush," Lin Yi said. "All right then, I'll have Xen prepare some food." Xuemin made the decision for Lin. Alright, Lin Yi didn't argue about these trivial things and drove straight to Xu Emin's house. By the time Lin Yi got there, Zhenhu was already there. He was sitting in the living room waiting for Lin Yi. When he saw Lin Yi walk in, Zhenhu stood up with Lu Tianyi's help. "Miracle doctor, I'll have to trouble you then." Zhenhu's attitude made Lin Yi a little embarrassed. He took so much money from him, and he was still being so respectful to him. But he really needed money right now, so he couldn't be soft-hearted. Plus, he couldn't be blamed for this. They only had themselves to blame for marrying a snobbish daughter-in-law and having a retarded nephew. "Elder Lu, you don't have to be so polite." Lin Yi waved his hand. "Let's go find an empty room." "All right, Miracle Dr. Lin, about the consultation fee." Lu Tianyi wasn't an idiot. Even if Lin Yi didn't ask about the consultation fee, he couldn't not mention it. If he pretended not to know, then he'd be an idiot. "Grandpa Guan, do you have a bank account? Transfer it directly." Lin Yi turned to Xu Emin. "Transfer it to my account?" Xu Emin paused for a moment, then understood that Lin Yi wanted him to plan for the medical company. He nodded. "All right, transfer it to my account first." "Mr. Lu, do you know my account number?" "I do." Lu Tianyi nodded. He'd planned to transfer 2 million to Xu Emin as well, so he'd memorized Xu Emin's number. Lu Tianyi called one of his subordinates and had them transfer the 100 million to Xu Emin's account. A moment later, Xu Emin's phone rang with a notification. After confirming that there were no issues, Lin Yi nodded in satisfaction. It seemed that Lu Tianyi was a man of his word. He didn't have to completely cut ties with him in the future. But that wife of his was nothing to be proud of. In an empty room upstairs, Lin Yi had Zhenhu lie down and asked Xu Emin for a box of silver needles. He then looked at Zhenhu quietly, not in a hurry to insert the needles. He was thinking about something. He'd already checked on Zhenhu's condition the first time they met, so he didn't need to check it again. What he needed to do now was think of a treatment plan, the quickest and most effective way to cure Zhenhu's angina. Of course, a complete cure wasn't possible, at least not right now. Old Lin's miraculous pills were hidden away like treasures, so he couldn't take them out even if he wanted to. But it was possible to keep the disease from acting up for 10 years, but that was a bit of a scam. Lin sighed. Whatever, he'd keep the disease under control for 10 years first. If Zhenhu really did live to 100 years old, then he'd think of something else. With that in mind, Lin Yi quickly inserted needles into Zhenhu's body. His speed was so fast that even Xu Emin, the god of acupuncture, was in awe. He did it in one go. 2 minutes later, Lin Yi began inserting needles into each needle. Neguan, Xiamen, Yinqi, Juk, Shanzhong, inject energy into the needles. Jiao Lao's voice suddenly rang in Lin Yi's ears. Lin Yi was overjoyed. He didn't know what kind of person Jiao Lao was, but with his help, things would be much easier. Lin Yi hurriedly did as he was told. The needle handle that had been injected with energy suddenly began to vibrate with a buzzing sound, as if something was driving it. Even when Lin Yi's hand left the handle, the needles continued to vibrate on Zhenhu's body. Chapter 319. A master in disguise. Lu Tianyi, who'd been watching Lin Yi's acupuncture, didn't know much about acupuncture, but he was still shocked by what he was seeing. Seeing the same expression on Guan Xuemin's face, Lu Tianyi was even more certain that Lin Yi was a master in disguise. In actuality, Lin Yi was just as shocked as Tianyi and Guan Xuemin were. He didn't think that infusing the art of dragon mastery into the needles would result in something like this. "Jiao Lao, what's going on?" "Linist. It's normal." Jiao Lao's voice was still calm. "Although you can't use the energy from the art of dragon mastery to treat the patient with your first stage, you can still maintain it like last time. Do as I say, and you should be able to make it through 10 years. "Well, that's it?" Lin Yi was pleasantly surprised. In his original plan, he'd planned to use acupuncture and medicine together. As long as the patient kept taking medicine after the acupuncture, he'd be able to control the angina, but he'd have to do acupuncture once a year. Of course, he'd thought of an excuse beforehand. He'd said that he'd check up once a year, and the Lius would be more than happy to bring Zhenhu over for acupuncture. That way, he wouldn't go back on his promise, saying that he'd treat Zhenhu for 10 years, not all at once. But now, he didn't have to worry about that anymore, because Jiao Lao's voice sounded. Of course, the pure energy in your body is more than enough to maintain a patient's bodily functions, and that's it. Is that strange? It is. Does that mean other golden class masters can do the same? Lin asked. Didn't I say it before? Only the energy in your body is pure energy. The martial arts they practice produce pure qi, and every martial art has a different type of pure qi. That's why the pure qi produced only works on their own martial arts. If used on others, it'll either be useless or have the opposite effect. Jiao Lao said with a tone of exasperation. I see. Lin Yi laughed awkwardly. In front of others, Lin Yi could call them idiots, but in front of Jiao Lao, Lin Yi could only laugh dryly. All right, time to put the needles away. Now, follow the order I say, and insert the needles into Jiyin Shu. Jiao Lao named a few more acupoints. Send the energy in. Lin Yi did as he was told, and the needles danced again. Guan Xuemin was amazed, and Lu Tianyi even looked up to Lin Yi as if he was a god. The 100 million was worth it. If he had an argument with Lin Yi because of the 100 million, not only would he have missed out on such a miraculous treatment, but the Lu family would have missed out on a miracle doctor. Phew, Lin Yi let out a long breath. Although he had enough energy in his body, transmitting the energy for a long time still made Lin Yi sweat. After repeating this 3 times, Lin Yi put away the needles, wiped the sweat off his forehead, and said, Done. Done? It wasn't that Lu Tianyi didn't trust Lin Yi, but it had only been an hour or so. His father's angina had been treated for so many years, and he had visited countless famous doctors to no avail. How could he be cured in a little more than an hour? Although he had seen the magic of Lin Yi's acupuncture, it was still hard for Lu Tianyi to believe that Lin Yi had cured his father's illness in such a short amount of time. But he didn't dare to ask, afraid that he would make Lin Yi unhappy. He could only hold back his questions and look at his father. Dad, how do you feel? Lu Tianyi could only ask his father how he felt. Much better, so comfortable. But my body feels so uncomfortable, I need to take a bath. Lu Zhenhu felt refreshed, but there was a sticky feeling on his body that was very uncomfortable. Lu Tianyi ran over to help his father up, but he was shocked to see a layer of greasy black and yellow dirt on his father's skin. What is this? Guan Xuemin also walked over after being reminded by Lu Tianyi. When Lin Yi was performing acupuncture, the two of them were afraid that they would affect Lin Yi, so they stood far behind him. When they got closer, their hands were trembling in shock. Bone and marrow cleansing? Guan Xuemin naturally knew about bone and marrow cleansing in ancient medicine, but it had been lost for many years. Bone and marrow cleansing referred to the use of acupuncture or herbs to expel toxins from the body, achieving an effect similar to rebirth. It was inevitable that toxins would be stored in the body when humans ate grains. Although metabolism could expel some of it, there was still some that would be absorbed by the body. As time went on, the toxins would accumulate more and more. Guan Xuemin didn't expect Lin Yi's acupuncture to be so effective. Not only could it cure diseases, but it could also expel toxins from the body. Lin Yi paused when he heard what Guan Xuemin called him, but then Jiao Yazi's voice sounded in his ears. Lin Yi, your pure energy has a part of the effect of expelling toxins, so even if you didn't do it on purpose, it would still bring about this result. But that Lu Zhenhu will probably live a few more years, and you'll have to perform acupuncture on him in 10 years. Lu Zhenhu? Lin Yi didn't know what to say, but it wasn't all that strange coming from Jiao Lao's mouth. Jiao Lao was an old monster, and although Lin Yi wanted to ask, Jiao Lao kept saying that he was too weak to know too much, so there was nothing Lin Yi could do. But one thing was for sure, Jiao Lao was far older than Lu Zhenhu, which was why he called him kid. Lin Yi smiled but didn't explain. It seemed that Lu Zhenhu's 100 million hadn't been spent in vain. Not only did it cure his illness, it also extended his life. Good things like this couldn't be bought with money. But, since Zhenhu was going to live a few more years, Lin Yi had to give him a heads up. Elder Lu's health isn't good, so I did it for a bit. But I have some bad news for you, Mr. Lu. What news? Please tell me, Miracle Dr. Lin. Lu Tianyi was startled. He'd thought that bone and marrow cleansing was a good thing, and the excitement from Guan Xuemin made him think that his father had gotten a great bargain. But then he heard Lin Yi say that there was bad news. Even the usually calm Lu Zhenhu couldn't help but raise his head. Didn't Lin Yi say that he was cured? Why would there be bad news? Could it be that bone and marrow cleansing was harmful to the body? But why did he feel so good? Chapter 320. Let me tell you some bad news. Lin Yi wasn't expecting everyone to be looking at him with such nervous gazes. Did he scare them with his tone? Mr. Lu, I said I could cure Elder Lu's illness in 10 years, so it's 10 years. That bone and marrow cleansing thing is a complimentary gift. Lin Yi paused. But the bad news is that you'll need to prepare the money 10 years from now. You'll still need to prepare it. Elder Lu can live for more than 10 years after the bone and marrow cleansing. Lu Tianyi blinked, surprised and overjoyed at the same time. This wasn't bad news at all. It couldn't be any better. How could it be bad news? So what if he had to prepare money after 10 years? As long as his father lived, House Lu would continue to prosper. Lu Tianyi was so moved that he couldn't speak. Miracle Dr. Lin. You're the savior of House Lu. Lin Yi waved his hand. All right, I'm tired, I need to rest. Yes. Miracle Dr. Lin needs to rest. I'll take my father to the bath first. Lu Tianyi didn't want to disturb Lin Yi any longer. He'd wanted to say some more words of gratitude, but held them back. Zhenhu couldn't help but be overjoyed at Lin Yi's words. Not only would he live for another 10 years, he'd be able to live a few more years on top of that. This was really good news. Tianyi, you have to prepare a big gift for young Miracle Dr. Lin after this is over. Consultation fee is consultation fee, thank you gift is thank you gift, you can't mix the two together. Zhenhu knew how important a miracle doctor was to the family, and naturally he wouldn't let go of any chance to befriend Lin Yi. Zhenhu wouldn't look down on Lin Yi anymore. Age didn't determine one's ambitions. Lin Yi might be young, but he was capable. Yes, Dad. I understand. Lu Tianyi quickly nodded and helped his father up. No, I feel like I'm 10 years younger. It's like I've returned to the time when I was in my 70s. My body is very good and I have strength. Zhenhu waved his hand and stood up, pacing a few steps around the room. Not bad at all. Lu Tianyi was even more surprised at this moment. Although he did not doubt the authenticity of Lin Yi's words, it was not as shocking as seeing it with his own eyes. His father, who used to need the help of others to walk and couldn't walk fast, was now walking as if he was flying. Was this still an old man in his 90s? At this moment, Lu Tianyi had also made up his mind to build a good relationship with Lin Yi at all costs. This was a rising star in the medical world, after all. His family had to make the first move and wait for the news to spread. All the noble houses would flock to fawn over Lin Yi, and then the Lus would have nothing to do with it. Lu Tianyi, Zhenhu, and Xuemin left the room and closed the door for Lin. Lin Yi was a bit tired, but he silently practiced the first stage of the art of dragon mastery in his mind. The energy he had lost was replenished, and he was back to his energetic self. You brat, how can you be so devious? You can't cure his illness, and you're telling him to prepare the money 10 years later for treatment. And he's still grateful to you. Jiao Yazi's voice rang out. Then what should I say? That I didn't cure him? Lin Yi sweated. He really was a bit devious. But you're not devious enough. You're not as devious as my master uncle. If it were him, he would have asked for another bone and marrow cleansing fee. Jiao Yazi said. Lin Yi fainted. When Lin Yi came downstairs, Guan Xin had already placed the dishes on the table. Zhenhu and Lu Tianyi hadn't left either. Zhenhu had clearly just showered, as his hair was still damp. However, he looked energetic as he chatted with Xuemin about something. Zhenhu and Lu Tianyi stood up again when Lin Yi came downstairs. Miracle Dr. Lin, you've worked hard. It's nothing. Is it time to eat? Mr. Lu and Elder Lu, would you like to join us? Lin Yi looked at the food on the table. It was enough for a few people, so he invited them. Then I'll gladly accept your invitation. This old man will shamelessly come and freeload. Zhenhu wanted the Lius to get closer to Lin Yi as well, so he immediately accepted Lin Yi's invitation. The Lius were now convinced that Lin Yi really was Xuemin's mentor. Although this was Xu Emin's house, it wasn't appropriate for them to stay and eat with Lin. Guan Xen brought out the dishes one by one, and then placed the bowls and chopsticks on the table like a little wife. All right, let's eat together. You must be hungry, right? Let's skip the formalities and get straight to the point. Xu Emin was worried that Lin Yi would be too tired, so he asked everyone to get straight to the point. All right. Lin Yi nodded, but noticed Guan Xen standing to the side. Guan Xen, you're here too? Aye. Guan Xen looked at Xu Emin. In the past, when Xu Emin's friends came over, Guan Xen wouldn't join in the fun. After all, she was a junior. Yesterday, it was only Lin Yi and the two knew each other, so Xu Emin wanted to introduce Lin Yi to her. That was why Guan Xen came. But today, Zhenhu and Lu Tianyi were here, so it wasn't appropriate for Guan Xen to just sit down. Xen, let's eat together. You can sit next to Yi. Xu Emin said with a smile. Okay. Guan Xen nodded, happy as she sat down next to Lin. Lu Tianyi wanted to sit next to Lin Yi to get closer to him, but Guan Xen suddenly sat down. He was a little disappointed, but at the same time, he started to pay more attention to Guan Xen. Guan Xen's shy and happy expression just now was reflected in Lu Tianyi's eyes. Lu Tianyi wasn't an idiot. He could tell Guan Xen's feelings for Lin Yi with just one look. No wonder Lin Yi was so close to House Guan. It was because of this. It seemed that even if he got to know a miracle doctor like Lin Yi, he couldn't cut off his connection with Xu Emin. Lu Tianyi made up his mind. Guan Xen put 100% of her effort into cooking today's meal, and it was a world of difference compared to yesterday's. Lin Yi, of course, ate heartily. Guan Xen, on the other hand, ate very little, but she was even happier to see Lin Yi enjoying the food. Lin Yi didn't linger after the meal. He still had to prepare for his trip abroad, and it was about time for him to leave for the airport. His flight was at 4 in the afternoon, and it was already 1. Lu Tianyi and Zhenhu were a little disappointed to see Lin Yi leave in a hurry, and so was Guan Xen. Xu Emin, on the other hand, didn't mind. He used to look forward to Lin Yi's visits, but now that he had a project with Lin Yi would definitely come more often. Chapter 321. Meeting Wang Xinyan again. Faubert's Bentley was already parked in front of the villa. Lin Yi parked the van in the garden and opened the door for Faubert. Faubert, wait for me. I need to get changed. Okay, just in time to prepare the things you need to bring, Uncle Fu nodded and said. Lin Yi was wearing a school uniform right now. He couldn't just leave the country like that because it would be too eye-catching. The Songshan First School's uniform wasn't very eye-catching in Songshan, but it wasn't available in other cities, let alone overseas. If Lin Yi were to appear in that uniform, he'd definitely be noticed by the local gangs. Lin Yi changed into the casual clothes he'd bought at the night market and put on a pair of sunglasses. He then took out the blade from his shoe and threw it into the drawer. Something like that wouldn't be able to get past airport security. He'd just buy another one and put it in his shoe when he got there. Lin Yi left his phone on the desk and came out without anything else. You're not bringing anything? Faubert looked at Lin Yi's outfit, a little surprised. What's there to bring? I'm just bringing someone back. Lin Yi shook his head. Faubert didn't say anything as he handed a credit card and plane ticket to Lin. This credit card can be overdrawn up to $1 million USD. The password is the same as the one I gave you before. Lin Yi didn't decline and put the card and plane ticket into his pocket. Lin Yi wasn't a stranger to flying, but this was his first time using Lin Yi's identity. He'd had all sorts of random names when he was on missions before. Lin Yi packed lightly and got on the plane in no time at all. Faubert had bought a first-class ticket. With Peng Zhan's wealth, a first-class ticket wasn't much at all. Faubert had bought a transfer ticket that required a transfer at Yanjing. However, as soon as Lin Yi boarded the plane, he closed his eyes and prepared to sleep. Sir, can I go over? Lin Yi's seat was near the aisle. As soon as he got on the plane, he lowered his head as if he was asleep. However, in fact, Lin Yi didn't sleep. He just closed his eyes. When he heard someone talking, he guessed that it might be the passengers sitting inside, so he stood up. But when he saw the person, he was stunned. It's you? Xinyan looked at the man in the big sunglasses. He looked familiar, but she didn't know who he was. Lin Yi was stunned. He then remembered that he was still wearing sunglasses, so he reached out and took them off. What about this time? It's you. Xinyan looked at Lin Yi, a little surprised. What are you doing here? But then Xinyan realized that her question was a little stupid. They were on a plane, and Lin Yi naturally had to take the plane to Yanjing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here. Why you're here is why I'm here. Lin Yi shrugged. Do you have luggage? I'll help you put it on? Yeah. Xinyan nodded after a moment of hesitation. She was dragging a suitcase, and it would be a little troublesome for a girl to lift it up. She wanted to wait for the flight attendant to help, but Lin Yi did it for her. Xinyan didn't hesitate. Thank you. It's no trouble at all. Lin Yi opened the luggage rack with one hand and grabbed Xinyan's suitcase with the other, placing it firmly on top of it. Xinyan's mouth was agape. The suitcase wasn't heavy, but putting it on with one hand showed that Lin Yi had quite the strength. Xinyan sat down, and so did Lin. Thank you for last time. Xinyan had always wanted to say thank you to Lin Yi. If it weren't for Lin Yi, she would have gotten into a lot of trouble. It's nothing, Lin Yi shook his head. Plus, didn't you help me on the train last time? That time? Xinyan smiled at the memory of what happened on the train. You really scared me that time. I thought you were tricked, but who would have thought that those people were the ones who got the worst of it? You're going to Yanjing too? Yeah, it's just a transfer. Lin Yi nodded. I see. Xinyan was a little disappointed. She'd wanted to treat Lin Yi to a meal to express her gratitude, but Lin Yi had a transfer, so he couldn't leave the airport. The airport was mostly full of fast food, and it wasn't suitable for a formal treat. What about you? What are you going to Yanjing for? Linist. I'm going to take care of some family matters. Xinyan's face darkened a little. Lin Yi saw that Xinyan didn't seem to want to talk about herself, so he didn't press the issue. The two fell into silence. It was obvious that Wang Xinyan was a girl who wasn't good at communicating with people. She was a bit of an introvert, after all. She wouldn't have been listening to her MP3 player when they met on the train. It was also because Xinyan wasn't good with words that Wu Huiru was able to trick her in the business district of the city center. If it had been Yu Shu or Xinwen, that violent girl, Wu Huiru would have been the one running. Your phone number is? The two spoke at the same time. Xinyan couldn't help but smile at each other. Xinyan blushed a little. Give me your phone, I'll help you. I don't have it with me. I'll give you my number, and you can text me. Lin Yi said. My number is 152x times x times 1234. Okay. Xinyan nodded and took out a small phone. She keyed in Lin Yi's number and texted it over. You live in Yanjing? The journey was long, and Xinyan didn't like to talk much. Lin Yi had to find a topic himself. It's my grandpa's house. Xinyan said, a little sad. My grandpa passed away. I'm going to the funeral. Lin Yi blinked, knowing that Xinyan had brought up something sad. My condolences. But why are you alone? My parents passed away before me. I'm still in school, so I had to apply for leave. Xinyan explained. It's nothing. My grandpa and I aren't that close, and we've only met a few times. It's just that I feel bad. My mom broke off with my family when she married my dad. My grandpa and my grandpa are enemies. Lin Yi was getting a bit of a headache from listening to, this family's relationship was complicated enough. No wonder Xinyan didn't look too sad at all. Perhaps her mother hadn't gone back much after breaking up with her family, and her grandfather was her grandfather's enemy. Naturally, he wouldn't be too nice to someone with the surname Wang. Chapter 322. Incorrect information. Xinyan blinked. You're an orphan? You could say that, but I have an old man who loves me dearly. You could call him adoptive father or grandpa. Anyways, his age is a little awkward. Lin Yi scratched his head. I guess I'll just have to call him old man. Xinyan chuckled at Lin Yi's words. You don't have to comfort me, I'm fine. I'm just feeling a little uncomfortable. My grandpa just passed away, and now my uncles are fighting over the inheritance. Even my grandpa's body was left in the hospital, and my parents were the ones who organized the funeral. Lin Yi was speechless. He didn't know what to say to Xinyan's uncles, letting a daughter they'd broken up with come back to take care of the funeral while they were busy fighting over the inheritance. But it's fine. Our family isn't after anything. My grandpa's family is rich, richer and more powerful than my grandpa's, but my parents have built a place for themselves after all these years. Xinyan had kept these words bottled up in her heart for a long time, and she probably didn't have anyone she could talk to normally. She decided to talk to someone she could get along with, Lin. It's just that. My uncle said that my mom's going back to fight over the inheritance. Lin Yi didn't know what to say as he listened to Xinyan's story. This was family business, after all, and Lin Yi wasn't in a position to butt in. I'm just whining, just don't bother me. Xinyan shook her head with a bitter smile. It's fine, didn't I tell you? Every family has their own problems, and things like this are hard to deal with. As long as you do your best, it'll be fine. Lin Yi said. Yeah, as long as you do your best, it'll be fine. Xinyan nodded. The two talked for a while, and Xinyan seemed to be getting sleepy as well. She leaned back in her chair, falling asleep after a while. Lin Yi turned down the air conditioner for her before closing his eyes as well. The plane was already descending when Lin Yi woke up. Xinyan was listening to her MP3 player, a few bags of snacks and a glass of juice on the table. Xinyan took her headphones off when she saw that Lin Yi was awake. She handed Lin Yi a bag of snacks from the table. Here, they were distributed on the plane when you were asleep. I got one for you. You can eat it. I don't like these things very much. Lin Yi took a look at it and found it was mostly dehydrated vegetable slices. He didn't like it. Yeah, thanks. Xinyan seemed to like these snacks a lot, and she'd already finished her portion. It didn't take long for the plane to land at Yanjing Airport, and Xinyan went to the domestic arrival point while Lin Yi went to the international transfer lounge. The encounter with Wang Xinyan was just a small interlude, and Lin Yi was on a plane to Blue Town. There was no one he knew on the plane this time, and so Lin Yi closed his eyes and fell asleep. When he opened his eyes, he was already in a foreign land. This was a small town full of exotic atmosphere, but it was not Blue Town. Blue Town was a few kilometers away from here by car. Lin Yi flagged down a taxi after exiting the airport, telling the driver that he was going to Blue Town in English. English was the common language of the world, and it was effective in this exotic European town as well. There were many customers on the way from the airport to Blue Town, and the driver was used to it. Ever since the Blue Water took control of Blue Town, it had become a place of luxury and debauchery, with casinos, red light districts, and drug dealing all over the place. There were a lot of customers visiting Blue Town every day, and the driver thought that Lin Yi was a tourist. You can have some fun there, young man, but don't get too addicted to it. Else, sighed. Thanks, I'm just going to take a look. Lin Yi thought that the driver was a good guy, after all. The driver didn't try to convince him otherwise, and started talking about the local culture in Blue Town instead. Lin Yi had a clear Asian face, and he was obviously a tourist. Don't offend the people in blue baseball caps in Blue Town. They're members of the Blue Water gang, and they hang out in casinos and brothels. The Blue Water is the only gang in Blue Town, and they're very powerful. You might not be able to come back if you piss them off. I've heard of that before. Lin Yi nodded. Right, sir, I'd like to ask, where's the Blue Water HQ? HQ? Why are you asking? The driver asked, suddenly alarmed. I'm staying somewhere far away from them. It sounds scary, and I'm traveling alone. I want to avoid trouble. Lin Yi explained with a smile. I see. The driver let out a breath of relief. The Blue Water HQ is in an old castle on the west side of the town, but the core of the Blue Water isn't there. The castle is too eye-catching, and there's only the Blue Water members there. I see. Lin Yi wondered, could the information be wrong? According to the information Guanghua had given him, that Blue Castle was the Blue Water's headquarters. But Guanghua hadn't looked into it before, something that even a taxi driver knew? Yeah, one of my cousins is a member of the Blue Water, so he knows a bit more. Their HQ is in an auto repair shop in the North District, and only a few people know about it. But you're a tourist from another city, so it's fine to tell you. Try not to go to the North District. All right, I won't go then. Lin Yi was moved. Just as he expected. The HQ of the Blue Water wasn't too big of a secret, but it was too far from Songshan, and Guangbo could only find some superficial information. Without actual investigation, there would be no specific search results on the internet. Lin Yi had the driver drop him off in the Blue City, and then took another taxi to the North District, finding a hotel to check into. There were plenty of tourists from the east like Lin Yi, so no one in the hotel paid any attention to Lin. Lin Yi took a quick look at the room before leaving the hotel with his sunglasses on, wandering the streets of the North District. Chapter 323. Chapter 323. First time in the city, Lin Yi walked the streets of the Northern District leisurely. Lin Yi didn't have a destination in mind, so all he needed to do was remember the way back. At an ATM, Lin Yi took out a few thousand euros and put it in his pocket before continuing to stroll around the Northern District. A car repair factory? Lin Yi frowned. He'd never known it before, but now that he'd come out, he realized just how big the Northern District was. There were all sorts of people, with nightclubs, discotheques, and karaoke all over the place. It seemed like the closer he got to the Blue Water's HQ, the more businesses there were. Lin Yi didn't believe that these were just legal. Lin Yi saw a couple of women flirting with him as he walked past. Of course, Lin Yi didn't know if the sex trade was illegal here, and Lin Yi didn't have the time to look into it either. After a moment of silence, he made a bold decision. He stopped a man with a scar on his face and a blue baseball cap. This guy didn't look like a good person at first glance, especially the obvious gang emblem on top of his head, which could also prove this point. He wasn't one of the higher-ups of the Blue Water, though. What kind of person would walk around alone without a bodyguard? Do you know who I am, kid? Do you want to die? The scarred man wasn't expecting Lin Yi to stop him. He started yelling in the local language. Hey, don't rush, bro. Lin Yi pretended to be cautious as he looked around. I'm from out of town, and I heard that the Blue Water gang has some cheap cars for sale. I'd like to buy one to play with. Do you have any connections, bro? Don't worry, there'll be benefits. Oh? You want to buy a car? The scarred man looked Lin Yi up and down. Lin Yi's skin was obviously foreign, and he didn't look like a spy from the cops, either. He didn't say anything else. The Blue Water did have a large number of stolen cars in their hands, and that was one of their main sources of income. They'd buy illegal and stolen cars from other cities, change their engine numbers and license plates, and then sell them to the less well-managed areas. As a low-level member of the Blue Water gang, selling stolen cars, drugs, and even bringing customers to the casino would earn them a hefty commission. That was pretty much how they lived. So the scarred man was interested when he heard that Lin Yi wanted to buy a car. What car are you buying? How much is it? Scarface didn't ask Lin Yi what he was buying the car for, since there was no need to ask. It was a rule in the industry, and if people didn't ask about the origin of the car, then there was no need to care about what the car was for. In any case, the money was exchanged, and the goods were exchanged. They did not owe each other anything, and after that, they did not know each other. Anything is fine, as long as it's a little cheaper. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't put on airs and buy a high-priced stolen car. Anyway, this kind of thing could be thrown away after it was used. Even if Lin Yi used Faubert's credit card, Lin Yi didn't want to cause trouble. Who knew if this guy in front of him was the kind of person who was greedy for money? What if he saw his extravagant spending and had evil thoughts? Lin Yi wasn't afraid of him, but Lin Yi's main goal was to bring Xie Jinbiao back to the country. He didn't plan on getting into any conflict with the Blue Water gang. Whether they were good or bad had nothing to do with Lin Yi. Scarface wasn't disappointed by Lin Yi's words. After all, most of the luxury cars were smuggled to other countries, and the ones left for sale weren't anything good. It was good enough for someone like him to get a deal like this in a month, so he didn't mind. They're cheap, ranging from a few €100 to a few $1,000 are fine too. Take me there, Lin Yi said. Follow me. Scarface nodded and led Lin Yi through the Northern District. Lin Yi followed behind him at a leisurely pace, arriving at the entrance of a car repair shop after 10 or so minutes of walking. A smile formed on Lin Yi's lips. It seemed that he'd made the right bet. The Blue Water's stolen cars were indeed stored in the factory. This repair shop was probably the Blue Water's headquarters. York, who's this guy? A Blue Water member with a blue hat standing guard at the door recognized Scarface, but not Lin. Here to buy a car. York greeted him with a smile and swaggered into the shop with Lin. Evidently, they didn't think that Lin would be able to cause much of a ruckus in Blue Water territory by himself. They didn't even bother with a body search before letting him in. Lin shook his head inwardly. The Blue Water's management was a little too lax. In actuality, the Blue Water was the overlord of Blue City. The Blue Water members could wipe out anyone who tried to cause trouble in any part of the city, let alone the headquarters. York brought Lin to a big yard at the back of the repair factory. There were close to 100 cars parked there, some models Lin had seen before, and some he hadn't seen before. They all looked like they'd been there for a long time. They're all here. Pick one you like and give it a try, it's fine. York's attitude was quite nice. He'd get a high commission if this deal went through, and he'd have a month's worth of pocket money. This one. Lin pointed at a nondescript old Santana. This one? I'll give you a discount. How about 500 euros? York gave a price after a glance at the car Lin was talking about. That's a little expensive, but I'm buying it with sincerity. Lin shook his head. It's not expensive, it's a reasonable price. This is a car from 10 years ago, and it's still very good. York said. 400. Lin took a look at the model and condition of the car. It was probably from the 90s, and this car was probably as old as he was. 10 years. Maybe 18 years, a little higher, 450? York asked. In actuality, Lin wasn't cutting the price too harshly. It was more or less a normal price, and he did look sincere. 400 it is. This car is more than 10 years old, and I'm just buying it for a ride. Who knows, I might throw it away in a few days. Lin said. All right, 400 it is then. York nodded readily. Cash in one hand, and the goods in the other. Chapter 324. A cool girl. Nope, remember my number. Call me if anyone tries to stop you. York paused before taking off his hat and handing it to Lin. Here, you wear my hat, and the cops in this city won't give us any trouble. Alright, thank you. Lin put the hat on. I'll just say I'm Boss York's lackey if anyone gives me any trouble, alright? Of course. York was so happy that he couldn't stop smiling when Lin called him boss. Just say it. I, York, have a bit of a reputation in this little blue city. Lin nodded, counting out 400 euros and handing it to York. Lin only had a few thousand euros in his pocket, so York wasn't too greedy. He let Lin get in his car after taking the money. The keys were in the car, so there was no need to worry about it being stolen in the garage. Lin drove out of the garage. Lin Yi's things were a lot easier now that he had the hat, and York thought he'd taken advantage of him. The car hadn't gone far when they saw a pretty girl trying to flag down a car. She waved when she saw Lin Yi's car coming over. Naturally, Lin Yi wasn't really interested in hitchhiking. There were at least 80 pretty girls who'd hit on him in the north, and no one knew what they did for a living. Lin Yi, however, was paying attention to the girl because she was an Asian. It was a strange feeling to see an Asian girl in a foreign country. The girl had a pair of sunglasses on her cool face, and a black outfit that was quite eye-catching. Lin Yi, however, felt a sense of familiarity, even though the sunglasses covered most of her face. Lin Yi wouldn't have stopped the car if it weren't for the fact that she looked familiar. What's up? Lin Yi was wearing a blue baseball cap and a pair of oversized sunglasses. His outfit was probably similar to this cool chick's, and it was hard to tell his true appearance from the outside. Handsome, can I hitch a ride? The cool chick squeezed out a smile on her cool face. Hitchhike? I don't even know where I'm going. How am I supposed to drive you? As Lin spoke, he sized up the young girl. She looked very familiar, giving Lin a feeling of déjà vu, but he couldn't remember where. He'd seen too many people these years, and it was normal for him to feel a sense of familiarity from time to time. That's great. Since you don't know where to go, just send me to Canhee Hotel. The cool girl opened the door of the front passenger seat and got in the car. Peh. Lin smiled. I don't know where the Canhee Hotel is. HM? The girl paused. Aren't you from the Blue Water gang? How come you don't know where it is? I just joined. Is there a problem? Lin shrugged. It's nothing. You drive, I'll show you the way. The girl's voice was a little disappointed, but still cold. Lin Yi started the car, and it started moving slowly. Lin Yi looked at the girl out of the corner of his eye. A tourist from out of town? But Lin Yi didn't think it was possible. How could a tourist from out of town be so bold as to stop a hitchhike on the street? How dare he hitchhike, especially after knowing he was a member of the Blue Water Gang? Wasn't she afraid of death? With that in mind, Lin Yi started to get curious about the girl's identity. Had he seen her before? If he could take off her sunglasses, he might be able to remember. Self-guided tour. The girl's answers surprised Lin. Self-guided tour? Self-guided tour? You know about the Blue Water Gang? Lin Yi retorted. The girl was obviously lying. Of course I'm interested, I admire the strong. The cool chick tried her best to make her smile more charming and moving, but the forced smile on her cool face was almost the same as a sneer. Lin Yi was speechless. There was no way to lie like that, was there? But he still found it funny. Admire the strong? So you're here waiting for a hitchhike in front of the Blue Water Gang? Yeah, didn't I meet you? The cool chick smiled. Can you tell me about your gang? I want to know. Sorry, I just joined. Sorry to disappoint you. Lin Yi was getting more and more curious about the girl. She didn't even know how to lie, so what did she do? Then you should know who the leader of your gang is, right? Is it Charlton? I heard it's him. The girl asked. Probably. Lin Yi had done some research on the Blue Water Gang, and that seemed to be the leader's name. Then do you know where he is? The girl ignored Lin Yi's probably. Is he in this repair shop? Or Blue Castle? In the repair factory? Lin Yi answered offhandedly. This was the information he'd gotten from the taxi driver. I see. Then do you guys see him? Which building does he usually work in? The cool girl continued to ask curiously. That I don't know. Lin Yi wasn't really a member of the Blue Water Gang, so how would he know that much? Why don't you know anything? The girl was a little angry. Then can you take me to him? Why do you want to see him? Lin Yi felt that this girl was a little strange, but the question made Lin Yi frown. There was a black SUV following him from afar. He'd been too focused on talking to the girl and didn't even know where the hotel was. He'd been driving aimlessly, and the car was still following them from afar. He wouldn't believe it if someone told him that he wasn't following them. The Blue Water Gang? Lin Yi frowned as he thought back to his previous actions. There wasn't anything suspicious about it, and he hadn't even revealed his intentions. He didn't even have a lot of cash on him, so why would someone from the Blue Water be following him? What made Lin Yi curious was that the SUV had followed him from behind, and not from the Blue Water's repair shop. Lin Yi had looked behind him when he left the shop to make sure no one was following him. Could it be someone who was following the girl? With that thought, Lin Yi felt that it was possible. It was probably after the cool girl was picked up that the MPV behind them caught up.